Chapter 1631. The large-scale rescue operation had been very powerful. In addition to the allied army of cultivators, there were also some big-shot cultivators hiding behind the scenes. For example, Li Xian and Zhang Ziden. To put it bluntly, both Li Xian and Zhang Ziden felt that they were at least somewhat responsible for this incident. If they had handled things more decisively with just the two of them, they might have been able to directly find Madame Phoenix's nest and flatten this madwoman's base. They wouldn't have had to trouble Miss Lotus Sun to do it herself. Li Xian and Zhang Ziden were well aware of the relationship between Lotus Sun and Wang Ling, and thus felt deeply ashamed. Looking at all the evidence, the thousand-faced man they were after was definitely connected to this young Madame Phoenix. In other words, this young Madame Phoenix wasn't as simple as she looked. For a technique like the Thousand Faces aberration, where even the faces they saw were different, the strength of the person behind it must be unfathomable. If one were to use this as a basis for inference, then there would be two results in front of them. First, there was an ancient powerhouse working under Madame Feng Chu. The second was that the person with the thousand-faced divine ability was Madame Phoenix herself. This Lu Renfeng is just an earth cultivator. Which ancient person would take a liking to her? Unless she was hit by a meteorite and lost her memory, there's no way she would be influenced by an ordinary earth cultivator like her, Zhang Ziden said as he sipped on his iced latte in the Daybuk Cafe. The ancient person he mentioned was an abbreviation for an ancient expert. It was also a term that Zhang Ziden had recently picked up from the internet. Nowadays it seemed very popular among young people to sum up a certain type of person as XX person. For example, Zhuan person book changer, Kushuan will die if you don't curse for a day. Zhang Ziden thought it was very interesting, so he picked it up in passing. In the end he realized that it went quite well, and Li Xian was also successfully led astray. Although I don't think an ancient person would work for an earth cultivator like Lu Renfeng, the problem isn't Ling Jinren also an earth cultivator? After Li Xian said this, Zhang Ziden opened his mouth, but was suddenly struck speechless for a moment. Yes, Wang Ling was very strong. He was so strong that they couldn't even imagine or measure him. But Wang Ling was indeed a genuine earthling. Furthermore, they were born from two earthlings who hadn't even reached the foundation establishment stage. This was something they didn't really believe in. It was not until Wang Nuan was born that Li Xian and Zhang Ziqin completely accepted the fact. Who would have thought that a little girl who had just been born on Earth would be as strong as a monster? She could hang them up and beat up two ancestor-level experts. In that case, even if the probability is low, it's not completely impossible, right? Zhang Zi snickered. In comparison, the fact that he, Lu Renfeng, and the thousand-faced man were the same person became much weaker after their discussion. If she, Lu Renfeng, was a primordial immortal, she would definitely not be interested in the arcane realms on Earth, even if Earth has been upgraded. Zhang Zi snickered. There are many factors in the formation of a secret realm. To put it simply, it's like a jar of old wine. The older it was, the more valuable the mystic realm would be. In the boundless Milky Way, there are countless secret realms that have not been explored for a long time. How could the secret realms on Earth be worth their attention? I agree. Li Xian nodded and said, Lu Renfeng only explored the secret realms for money. Her vision is still not as good as that of the primordial immortal. In the end, we are in different realms. Back then, I was also seeking money, but I had my reasons. Zhang Zi snickered at this time. Why do you say that, Brother Ziqin? Money is evil. I just take these sins into my own hands and bear them silently. Zhang Zi sighed. If I don't go to hell, who will? Li Xian. About 2 minutes later, Zhang Zi snickered, finished the last mouthful of coffee in his hand and immediately got up. Let's go, Brother Li Xian. Let's put an end to it together. Okay, Li Xian said seriously, but how are we going to get in? This time the Alliance Army has a unified command and a symbol of allies. We don't have anything. Isn't it inappropriate to go in like this? There's nothing inappropriate about it. Zhang Zi snickered suddenly. Aren't we just enthusiastic citizens passing by? So that was it. At this moment, Li Xian suddenly understood. While Li Xian and Zhang Ziqin were preparing to set off, in Songhai First Prison, the three-man mahjong team led by General Bai was also launching a new round of operations. Because this was a free opportunity to earn points. As long as they participated in the Alliance Army, they would earn points. Of course, if they could render meritorious service in this operation, they would earn extra points. All three of them had been sentenced to more than 1,000 years. Naturally, they wouldn't miss this opportunity to earn points to offset their sentences. Was that Miss Sun arrested? After General Bai told them the ins and outs of the matter, the three-man team felt that it was inconceivable. They had only heard about it from the prison guards and knew that there was a large-scale Allied army operation in Shanghai City. They had thought it was just a drill, but now that they were in General Bai's car, they understood why on earth this large-scale Allied army was here. To tell the truth, the three people in the mahjong team were a little taken aback. Do the three of you have any impression of Lu Renfeng? General Bai asked at that moment. After all, the three people sitting in the car at that moment enjoyed top-notch caretakers in Shanghai First Prison. Most importantly, they had previously been leaders of underworld forces, so they couldn't be any more familiar with the dark network and other underground organizations. Are you talking about Lu Fengchao? The old devil asked. That's her. General Bai asked. Why, are you familiar with her? We don't have any business dealings, I just saw her in an underground human trafficking market, the old devil said. I still remember that she and another person were fellow disciples. The other person was nicknamed Crouching Dragon. But compared with her, this Crouching Dragon is indeed very low-key. Do you mean they have a Shifu? Yes. But my venerable self doesn't know much about who that Shifu is. General Bai cupped his chin in his hand and pondered for a moment. Feng Chao's underground laboratory in the northern suburbs was already under the control of the Alliance Army, and the encirclement had been formed. Lu Renfeng couldn't escape now. Apart from capturing her alive, the higher-ups had instructed them to collect as much evidence as possible. Now that they had set out a little too late, it wouldn't be advantageous for them to intervene head-on. Thus, when General Bai heard this, he suddenly felt that he and the mahjong trio might be able to think differently. Do you know where this underground human trafficking market is? He asked at that moment, raising his head. These people are all cunning. Even if I give them the address, they might have already changed it, the old devil said. If there's no one there, wouldn't it be a wasted trip? There are always clues, General Bai said. You've done a great service. The old devil immediately replied, in Winter City. Winter City? Master of Immortal Mansion Cheng Yu was blank. Back then, the entrance to his immortal mansion had been in Winter City. Come to think of it, that was where his dream had begun. Chapter 1632. Now people from all sides set off in different directions. Some surrounded the place, some built momentum, and some collected evidence. There were actually quite a few enthusiastic citizen groups like Zhang Zizi and Li Xian. They didn't do it for fame but for the light of righteousness, and only wanted to contribute that light and warmth in their hearts. Of course, the vast majority of them were Grey Church disciples. After all, their leader had been abducted. How could they not save him? Of course, most of the Grey Church disciples were still students and didn't have the ability to stop the rescue, but they could still stop a large-scale attack on public opinion online. For a time, a lot of dirt on Lu Renfeng was exposed online. There had always been a lot of rumors about Madame Phoenix, but in the online environment, many things were half true and half false and no one would really believe them. But sometimes, as long as public opinion was focused, it didn't matter if it was true or not, it would become true. The passers-by were labeled as old fence-sitters. As long as 7 out of 10 people said it was true, they would believe what they believed in no matter what the truth was. This was also why in the current online environment, when it came to some unconfirmed news, you'd find that the people who started cursing and the people who apologized later were the same people. Those who apologized weren't bad, but more people chose to remain silent after the tables were turned. The internet was like a mask. When one's true face was covered by the mask, all the hideous and ugly expressions would be covered by the mask. Logically speaking, with such a huge uproar online, if Lu Renfeng had been a little more observant, she might have realized that she had caught the wrong person. Unfortunately, Madame Phoenix was still too anxious. She firmly believed that the person she had caught was Jiang Yingying herself. Without stopping, she led Lotus Sun Yinger, and the intelligence department's chief into the forbidden laboratory. This was a secret laboratory space that Lu Renfeng had specially opened up, and only she had the highest authority. As soon as the intelligence department's chief Hang Chuan entered, he found that the signal in his headset had been blocked. He didn't know that the internal intelligence department of the laboratory was currently in chaos. In Hang Chuan's absence, the intelligence department was a group of dragons without a leader, and they couldn't directly break into the forbidden laboratory to tell Lu Renfeng the truth. The internet says that we caught the wrong person? Wrong person? No way. Zhang San has never failed before, so how could Jiang Yingying and Lotus Sun not tell the difference? Look at the news online. I don't think it's fake news at all. This? I have to tell Madame quickly. Where's Madame now? Forbidden Laboratory. Madame has already entered the Forbidden Laboratory. Ugh. It's over. Inside the restricted laboratory, Lu Renfeng pointed at a bed in front of her. Come, classmate Jiang, lie down. The expression on the madwoman's face was as calm as an ancient well. I advise you to be more obedient. I've always been very fast. Moreover, the amount of anesthetic is enough to make you die without any pain. Sun Yinger never thought that she, the master of the void, would have to lie on the operating table one day. Your scalpel is not sharp. What if you can't cut it open? Sun Yinger sighed. She was surprisingly cooperative and did not struggle or resist. She just lay down. Her obedience surprised Lu Renfeng. I thought you would struggle a little. I didn't expect you to be so cooperative. You're a good kid. I didn't waste my efforts to save you all those years ago. Hey, you don't have to say such pretty words. You've killed so many innocent people in order to develop an artificial spirit root. You just happened to be lucky enough to get the thing in my body. Do you really think you're that good? Sun Yinger replied as if she was immersed in her acting. Luck is also a part of strength. At this moment, Lu Renfeng opened the mechanism in the restricted laboratory and took out a scalpel that was glowing with a faint blue light. Tell me, do you have any unfulfilled wishes? As long as I can do it, I'll fulfill them for you. Can I really? Sun Yinger's expression grew more and more excited. Yes. Lu Renfeng nodded and smiled. If I open the infinite realm and empty all the materials in it, I'll become the richest person on earth. As long as I have money, there's nothing I can't do. Then help me kill someone? Sun Yinger asked. Then can you help me kill someone? Sun Yinger asked. She didn't expect this to be Jiang Yingying's wish. However, such a simple wish was exactly what she wanted. She, the chick phoenix, had killed countless people. Killing one person was too easy for her. Moreover, Jiang Yingying was only a 16-year-old girl. How could a 16-year-old high school student know a big shot? You don't want me to kill your grandfather, do you? Martial Sage Jiang? Lu Renfeng gripped the scalpel and suddenly laughed evilly. It's not impossible, although it's difficult. But I can still do it. No. Why would I kill my grandfather? The person I want to kill is someone who bullied me. Sun Yinger said. Not Martial Sage Jiang? That's a pity. But since it's your wish, I'll fulfill it for you. It's fate that brought us together. Lu Renfeng blinked, her expression terrifying. Tell me, what's that person's name? Where does he live? His name is Wang Ying. Wang is in Wang Ba. Ying is in Ying. He lives in a villa on East Huang Road. Sun Yinger blurted out the address of the Wang family's small villa. Got it. Lu Renfeng nodded and smiled. After I take out your spirit root, I'll take out your brain tissue and preserve it. Why do I have to take out his brain tissue? Of course, when I bring him to you, don't you want to witness his death with your own eyes? As long as I connect your brain tissue to a visual sensor, you'll be able to see it with your own eyes. When the time comes, he'll kneel in front of you like a dying dog, begging for mercy. Lotus Sun and Sun Yinger. At that moment, Lu Renfeng laughed sinisterly. It'll definitely be a wonderful sight. Lotus Sun and Sun Yinger. Hearing this, Sun Yinger couldn't help shuddering. Sure enough, the madwoman in front of him was a serious pervert. Perhaps when Lu Renfeng said this, she didn't realize that danger had already descended. To be honest, Wang Ying really hadn't wanted to come. Lying on Wang Ling's bed with his eyes closed, he had been spying on what was going on here. He had wanted to see Sun Yinger's embarrassed expression as she let herself be trampled upon. But he hadn't expected to hear Lu Renfeng's arrogant words. Considering that so many people had already made a move, he hadn't made a move out of consideration for the balance of power. Young people still had to talk about martial ethics. But now he was going back on his word. Lu Renfeng must die. Young people talk about martial ethics, my ass. Just as Lu Renfeng was about to cut down, a hand suddenly pressed down on Madame Phoenix's shoulder. From Sun Yinger's point of view, she couldn't see the murderous face of the youngster standing behind Lu Renfeng at that moment. However, she recognized that hand at first glance. It was Wang Ying's. Chapter 1633. A very powerful aura. The moment Wang Ying's palm came down, Lu Renfeng couldn't stop the cold sweat from dripping down her forehead. Who are you? The chief of the intelligence department behind her was startled. Wang Ying had appeared too suddenly like a ghost. He wanted to fight back in an attempt to protect Lu Renfeng, but his body was frozen in place. This wasn't because Wang Ying had used some kind of body immobilizing spell, but because he was trembling from the depths of his soul. The huge gap in battle strength made Hang Chuan feel as if his blood had frozen in that short instant. Then, his body began to tremble and he gradually stopped thinking. Wang Ying couldn't even be bothered with this small fry. He only wanted to get back at Lu Renfeng, so he pinched her shoulder like he was pinching a little chick. "Old woman, how do you want to die? How did you get in?" Lu Renfeng's face was pale. She had the highest authority in the restricted area of the lab, and there were barriers everywhere. Ordinary cultivators couldn't get in, whether by going through walls, shrinking, or teleporting. Wang Ying's sudden appearance had terrified her. What she didn't know was that there was a chain between shadows. Sun Yinger's body had already been imprinted by Wang Ying, so no matter where she went, Wang Ying would know it clearly. "How did I get in? Can't I enter this lousy place whenever I want?" Wang Ying snorted. Without any superfluous words, the next moment he reached out and grabbed Lu Renfeng's head. There was a crack. Lu Renfeng's head was crushed in an instant, like a rotten orange that had burst open. "Ah, this Xiaoying, how did you kill her?" Lotus Sun was also sweating profusely. She hadn't expected the battle to be over before it had even started. Meanwhile, the rest of the people in Phoenix's lab hadn't expected this either. The Allied army hadn't surrounded them yet, but Wang Ying had actually charged in and set the crystal on fire. Young man. He really didn't care about martial ethics. "This kind of damned old woman deserves to die." Wang Ying snorted. "Also, she's very cunning. I didn't kill her. This should be a fake body." "Fake body?" Lotus Sun was puzzled. "But it really isn't that different from the real body." With that, Wang Ying reached out and tore off Lu Renfeng's right leg on the spot. Lotus Sun hurriedly covered her eyes. The result was unexpected. After the seemingly violent movement of removing the leg, there was not a single drop of blood, only the sound of various gears falling to the ground. The right leg had been torn apart by Wang Ying, and the catheter connected to it had been instantly torn apart, dripping orange mucus. "This is..." Lotus Sun was puzzled. "It's the androids," Wang Ying said, holding her chin. He checked Lu Renfeng's leg that had been torn off and saw the number 010 written on it. It was also the first time he had seen androids. To be honest, Lu Renfeng's technological means also shocked Wang Ying. If he hadn't reached out and touched Lu Renfeng's body, he wouldn't have thought that this Lu Renfeng was fake. Based on her aura alone, number 010 Lu Renfeng was no different from an ordinary human. This was different from the head of State 001 humanoid combat robot that Wang Ming was developing. The combat robot was made up of all kinds of spare parts. It was a pure mechanical type magic treasure. No matter how realistic its appearance was, it could still be seen at a glance. But Lu Renfeng's android technology had the technical ability to pass off the fake as the real thing. Sun Yinger got up from the operating table timidly. She didn't care about what was happening at all, but was afraid of Wang Ying. Her conversation with Lu Renfeng just now was in fact a way to kill with a borrowed knife. She had initially just wanted to test whether Wang Ying was spying on them. It was just that she hadn't expected this man to actually show up after this test. Don't hit me, oh. Sun Yinger shrank back in fear. Wang Ying's lips curled up, and he strode forward to pinch the girl's cheek with one hand. I'll deal with you later." After saying that, he abruptly lowered his head and swiftly planted a kiss on the girl's soft lips. Sun Yinger's mind went blank with this kiss. At the same time, the person whose mind went blank with Sun Yinger was none other than Lotus Sunday. She felt as if her head had been struck by an earth-shattering blow, and she suddenly felt as if she had been struck by a violent blow. Young people nowadays weren't just unethical in martial arts. They were also unethical in kissing. When she quickly came back to her senses, her cheeks were red. The main thing was that Sun Yinger and Wang Ying were very similar to her, and Wang Ying's overbearing kiss gave Lotus Sun the illusion that it was Wang Ling kissing her for a brief moment. Her cheeks instantly turned red, and she felt as if a fire had been lit on her face, which instantly burned all the way to her ears. This Lu Renfeng is fake. And now, our first task is to ferret out the real one. It was still Wang Ying who broke the silence first. Looking at her burning face, he couldn't help laughing. "Hey Miss Sun, don't think so much. It's better to act than to be moved, and you won't be able to wait. It's better for you to take the initiative and directly kiss him." How can I do that?" Lotus Sun's face turned even redder. "Do I need to get permission to like someone?" Wang Ying laughed. "Think about it yourself." Lotus Sun. To be honest, it wasn't that Lotus Sun hadn't thought about taking the initiative to kiss Prince Ling, but she had always felt that it would be too difficult. Kissing was all about the atmosphere. As long as the atmosphere was right, it would naturally come. If she just pounced on him and bit him, she would definitely be labeled a crazy girl. In fact, Lotus Sun was mainly worried that Wang Ling would hate her. It hadn't been easy for her to get closer to Wang Ling, and she didn't want her excessive and unnecessary actions to cause their relationship to drift apart again. Kissing, especially kissing Wang Ling. Of course, this was what she had been looking forward to all along. But there were times when everything went according to plan. In particular, Jean Deng had reminded her that patience was the key to dealing with Wang Ling. She didn't know what would happen if she became impatient. Lotus Sun didn't even dare think about the consequences of that. Because she knew that she couldn't bear it at all. She liked that person, but in the end they couldn't even be friends. At that moment, a piercing alarm suddenly rang out throughout the restricted laboratory. Wang Ying judged that this was the alarm response after Lu Renfeng number 010 had been crushed. Less than 10 seconds after the alarm went off, all the hidden mechanisms in the entire restricted laboratory were activated. A whole bunch of new Lu Renfeng were pushed out of the capsule. Chapter 1634. A large number of Lu Renfeng cyborgs poured out from every corner of the forbidden laboratory. As if they had been prepared beforehand, they appeared in the corridors and filled them up like sardines, like a subway during the morning rush hour. Wang Ying raised an arm and grabbed a Lu Renfeng's throat from a distance, then gently squeezed her hand. In an instant, the heads of these cyborgs rolled to the ground like watermelons. Then these dead cyborgs were quickly replaced by new cyborgs. They had the same faces as Lu Renfeng, but they didn't have the slightest emotion. Seeing their companions fall to the ground, the surviving cyborgs around them would pick up the broken parts and throw them into the recycling tunnels of the forbidden laboratory. Wang Ying didn't know how many doppelgangers the real Lu Renfeng had created for herself, but judging from the wave after wave, there were definitely tens of thousands of them. Sun Yinger, how many did this crazy woman create for herself? Wang Ying, it seems that this woman has an emergency plan. It's possible that she wants to open the door to the infinite secret realm from the front. But I heard earlier that it won't be easy to open the entrance to this secret realm. It requires a large amount of spirit energy, Lotus Sun said. Indeed, there aren't many people who can open the entrance to this secret realm on their own. At that moment, Wang Ying thought of something. But it's different if there are many of them. I think it's better to report this to Battle Sect as soon as possible. Let's not get involved in what happens next. Let's just wait for things to end smoothly. He was Wang Ling's shadow and their minds were connected. Just before he said this, he also knew at the same time that it was the truth. That man was finally ready to make his move. Wang Ying's appearance was a huge surprise for Lu Renfeng. She hadn't expected to be stopped by a youngster who had suddenly appeared just as she was about to open the infinite secret realm. But fortunately, she still had an emergency plan. As long as her original body wasn't found, she hadn't lost this battle yet. In Shou Chang's private laboratory, several cyborgs Lu Renfeng were in complete control. Junior brother Wulong, long time no see. Lu Renfeng linked her original body's will to the brain tissue of one of the cyborgs, thus temporarily controlling it. When the androids rushed in, Shouchong realized that the situation was not good. There was an emergency escape button in his laboratory. Just as he was about to press it, one of the androids kicked his abdomen, shattering his dream on the spot. Senior sister, you can't keep making mistakes. Are you willing to call me senior sister now? Lu Renfeng couldn't help but laugh out loud. An artificial spirit root is my lifelong dream. Now that I've obtained this core technology, all I need to do is find the materials in that arcane realm. According to Lu Renfeng's original plan, she had planned to use Jiang Yingying to analyze the key to the infinite arcanum and enter through the back door. But this plan had just been ruined because of Wang Ying. Right now, Lu Renfeng had to activate the emergency plan. That was to break through the concealed zone head-on by using a defensive method. She had been secretly observing Shou Chang's private laboratory for a long time. She also knew that Shou Chang's current plan was to break through from the front. However, it was not easy to open the door of the infinite secret realm. This required a one-time injection of spiritual energy that far exceeded the current level of the cultivators on Earth. Even that senior behind her couldn't provide such an explosive output of spirit power in a short period of time. Senior sister, you should know that you're already surrounded, right? You have nowhere to retreat to. Shou Chong said, Battle Sect. And those sky-level sect leaders have already surrounded your laboratory so tightly that not even a drop of water can trickle through. Do you think I'm completely unaware of what's going on outside? At that moment, Lu Renfeng laughed again. As long as my real body hasn't been found, I haven't lost yet. What's more, do you think I didn't anticipate this situation? Huaxiu Alliance has been watching me for a long time. It can be said that I expected them to surround my laboratory in the northern suburbs. Of course, if I had to make a mistake, it would be that I really didn't expect so many people to come. That was what she said. But in fact she was still suppressing a lot of anger in her heart. Because of what had happened outside, including the intelligence department's mistaken capture of Lotus Sunday. She only found out about it after her mental link with number 010 Lu Renfeng had been severed because of Wang Ying. If it hadn't been for Wang Ying, she might still be in the dark. Who knew what this bunch of good-for-nothings in the intelligence department were doing? They could even capture a little girl by mistake. As for the large numbers of the Cultivator Alliance army surrounding the northern suburbs, Lu Renfeng was indeed surprised. But she wasn't flustered at all. Instead, there was a look of excitement on her face that made Shou Chong feel extremely uneasy. It doesn't matter if there are more people. The more people there are, the better it is for me. Lu Renfeng's second plan was to take advantage of Huaxiao Alliance's encirclement and suppression to use these cultivators' spirit power to forcibly break through the main entrance to the Infinity Secret Realm. But the second plan actually had its risks. If Huaxiao Alliance didn't send enough people, even if she had a way to squeeze these cultivators dry of their spirit power, it might not be enough to pry open the door to the Infinity Secret Realm. But now she felt that the situation was different. Hundreds of thousands of the Cultivator Alliance army were now surrounding Phoenix Sun's laboratory in the northern suburbs. The ordinary cultivators who had come as reinforcements were at the Golden Core stage at the very least. Not to mention the sky-level sect leaders who were in the circle. Senior sister, don't tell me you want to. At that moment, Shou Chang's expression changed dramatically as he finally realized what on earth Lu Renfeng was up to. He. Lu Renfeng continued to cover her mouth and chuckle through the android. The heavens are truly on my side. In order to rescue that Miss Lotus Sun, they had actually sent so many people without thinking. If the final result of this battle was to go for wool and come home shorn, I think this Huaxiao Alliance's prestige will be swept away. At that moment, in the Battle Sect's command center, all the members of the Alliance army participating in this battle had turned into dense red dots on the satellite map on a huge screen. From a commander's point of view, Cone had never commanded such a rich battle in his previous 8 lifetimes. But for such a large number of Alliance soldiers to be placed in his hands alone was a test of his ability to withstand pressure and command. He looked at the blinking light markers on the map and frowned slightly. Dao Monarch, I think something's wrong. Our Alliance army has already formed a dumpling encirclement. But Lu Renfeng's side isn't putting up the slightest resistance. I can't help but feel that there's some kind of conspiracy behind this. As expected of the senior monarch's chosen one. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch smiled, looking relaxed and content. This Dao Monarch has already discovered it? Cone was speechless. At the end of the day, this Andy Lu just wanted to enter the secret realm to steal materials. Now her real body is nowhere to be found, and a large number of androids are pouring out of the Forbidden Zone laboratory. There's no point in catching those androids. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch said, there's a saying, close the door and beat the dog. To use a more cultured term, it's like catching a turtle in a jar. Cone, Dao Monarch, you mean? Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch smiled. Just let the Alliance army beat them at their own game. Because at that moment, a pretty boy had already entered the infinite secret realm ahead of time. He was waiting at that entrance for Lu Renfeng's real body to come in, of course, in order not to delay his homework. This pretty boy even moved his desk over and wrote while he waited. Chapter 1635. Although he had said that he didn't want to get involved in this matter, he had never thought that in the end he would still get involved. He really wasn't thinking about any of this. His mind was full of homework, exercises, and the upcoming monthly exam. But he didn't know why. His body started to move involuntarily. He knew that Lu Renfeng had come for the infinite secret realm, so the easiest way to find her real body was to wait for her. Now that the secret realm had finally been opened, her real body would definitely show itself and take a look. Another advantage was that apart from him, there was no one else at the entrance to the secret realm, which would give him a cover to hide his strength and fame. It would be too high profile and troublesome to follow the team to capture Lu Renfeng's real body. It would be better to wait for this crazy grandma to walk right into the trap. Thus, he decided to enter the infinite secret realm right away. But he had heard that it wasn't easy to open the infinite secret realm, and that a huge amount of spirit energy was needed to open the door. For this reason, Shouchong and Lu Renfeng had racked their brains to find a way to open the infinite secret realm. Wang Ling believed it. He used his king's eye to lock onto the coordinates of the secret realm's entrance. Then, a magnificent gate to the infinite secret realm appeared in front of him. The ancient door frame was densely covered in abstruse runes that Wang Ling had never seen before. There were too many secret realms in the universe to count. After all, Wang Ling was just a kid and hadn't visited all of them. In order to explore a secret realm and obtain immortal opportunities to improve their cultivation, ordinary cultivators were all determined to rush in, for fear that if they were one step too late, the treasures in the secret realm would be snatched away by someone else. But Wang Ling was different. He wasn't interested in secret realms, because everything in them could be found in his Wang Zhibao pants. Thus, he didn't know much about the infinite secret realm. He had heard from Shouchong and Lu Renfeng that it would take a huge amount of spirit power to enter. Faced with the gate to the infinite secret realm, Wang Ling had a serious expression on his face. Then he rolled up his sleeves and violently pushed the door inward. There was a loud bang. Wang Ling saw the gate to the infinite secret realm collapse with a loud bang. Not only that, even the door frame was cracked. Sure enough, he had thought too much. He had clearly only used a little bit of his strength. Only the heavens knew that the gate to the mystic realm could not withstand the pressure. Thus, before moving the desk into the entrance of the secret land, he had also used the great repair spell to repair the door that had been torn down so that everything looked so natural. In the Battle Sex Command Center, Wang Ling's Catch a Turtle in a Jar was fully deployed under Kion's encrypted instructions. His face was flushed and there was a tinge of nervousness in his excitement. Large-scale command was a great test of one's ability to command. The Alliance Army's operation this time looked like it had been organized to rescue Lotus Sun, but Huaxiao Alliance actually had other considerations. From a 1,000-layer cake perspective, the second layer on Huaxiao Alliance's side naturally wanted to capture Lu Renfeng alive. If this crazy grandmother used her creative ability on the right path, she would indeed be a promising talent. Third, Huaxiao Alliance wanted to use Battle Sect as a medium to see the ultimate scale and combat ability of the Alliance Army. This was purely from the perspective of a cultivation strategic deployment. Huaxiao Alliance had always advocated a love of peace. Every year, the profits it generated were used for the construction of cultivation infrastructure, and only a small portion was invested in military defense. The current mainstream view in the cultivation world was that military defense could in fact be replaced in another way. For example, they could unite private sects among the people and turn them into one family, just like the current Alliance Army. But it would be a little too formal to organize such a large-scale Alliance Army in the name of Huaxiao Alliance's people. So at this time, the necessity of Battle Sect's existence manifested itself. When Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had gone to pull in investments back then, Huaxiao Alliance had decided to invest because of this consideration. The Sky-level sects had joined together to block the development of the Earth-level and Black-level sects below them. This kind of behavior was very detrimental to the operation and development of private sections. Thus, at this time, a super sect that could surpass Sky level was needed to set an example and form an unshakable force in all aspects. In the end, it would become a hemp rope that would tightly link the other sects together. Thus, the overall planning and coordination of sects in the cultivation world was also a subject of study. Of course, for a sect to develop, it definitely wouldn't be enough to rely on funds alone. It also needed a certain amount of talent. Take the Alliance Army this time for example. Through this small-scale Alliance Army battle, the secret mission that Cowan and Crispy Noodles had received was to unearth cultivators who could be used in the cultivation world. Most of these talents were still buried, and their current value could only be discovered by Bolo. Once Cowan and Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch locked onto a candidate, they would only record it down first. Next, it was up to the sect's Ministry of Commerce to communicate and negotiate the transfer of disciples between sections. Nowadays, Battle Sect was rich and overbearing. In theory, as long as they had enough money, there was no one they couldn't negotiate with. Has Mr. Cowan discovered any outstanding seedlings? Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch asked as he looked at the screen in front of him in front of the command platform. No, not for the time being. Cowan shook his head. Looking at the few cameras that were switching now, it didn't seem like he had taken a fancy to anyone at first glance. The cultivators in the Alliance Army were generally relatively young, and their average realm was at the Golden Core stage. The Golden Core stage actually didn't seem like much of a trick. The most important thing was that although the northern suburb laboratory had been surrounded, the attack order hadn't been issued yet. Without a fight, it was very hard to determine the value of these cultivators. What do you think, Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch? Cowan asked at that moment. I found one. Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch's gaze fell on a young cultivator on the screen. After that, the system's smart tracking system directly focused on this person and scanned him accurately. Very quickly, this young cultivator's name appeared on the screen on the right. Heavenly Spring Sect, Li Huaxian, Heavenly Spring Sect? Cowan frowned. This sect's ranking was pretty low. Because it was just a black-level sect. The attack order hasn't been issued yet, and it's very bad for one's mentality. Look at this person, he's neither arrogant nor impetuous, and his face is always indifferent. This state of mind is already very rare, Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch said. Of course his words were pure nonsense. Given his eyesight, he could pretty much see through these cultivators with one sweep of his eyes. As Wang Ling's real clone, Crispy Noodles had a natural ability to read people. But this ability couldn't be explained clearly, so he had to find a reason to explain it. In the cultivation world, the most illusory reason was state of mind. At first, it sounded very mysterious, but it also seemed to make some sense. It was like the horoscope and psychological tests on the market. This was also known as the Barnum effect. Chapter 1636. The strategic reserve of talents was something that every sect would do, and the key was whether the two sides of the transaction valued talents enough. There were times when some small sects would let go of a big fish for the sake of temporary benefits. Li Huaxian was a talent personally handpicked by Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch, so Qion naturally wasn't worried about him in all aspects. However, compared to the other sects, it was not an easy task for the battle sect to poach them. How could a super sect possibly take a fancy to a disciple from a profound sect? If we were to poach him too openly, we would only alert the enemy and tell them that this Li Huaxian is a rare talent and that our war sect is definitely going to have him. This way, Li Huaxian's value would be raised to an extremely high level in a short period of time, and in the end, it would put the war sect in a passive situation. Have you thought about the matter of poaching people, immortal? I don't think it's easy, Kun said as he stared at Li Huaxian on the screen. Little Silver, Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch said bluntly. Little Silver? Team Leader Ian? Actually, Qion didn't know much about Little Silver. He hadn't been in the battle sect for a long time, so he didn't know many of the sect's elders and disciples. But he did know this team leader Ian. This was a member of the war sect's core team, and he was in charge of the matters regarding the Spirit Beast group. Furthermore, he knew that this leader Ian had been living at Grenade-throwing Senior Immortals Place the entire time before battle sect had its own Spirit Beast Peak. Even now, after the completion of the Spirit Beast Peak, it was said that this mysterious and unfathomable team leader Ian still liked to stay at his old place. Leader Ian, can he do it? He always seems very aloof. Kun didn't know Little Silver well, so Crispy Noodles couldn't help laughing when he heard this. Little Silver, aloof? Of course, that did not exist. In the entire battle sect, apart from Ling Jinren, was there anyone more lively and adorable than Little Silver? Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch admitted that he didn't. The natural affinity of a holy beast was the key to Little Silver's negotiation. Moreover, as the leader of the Spirit Beast group, most of the time he went to other sects, he would be aiming for the Spirit Beast exchange. Basically, it was very difficult for people to think that he was here to poach people. Well, perfected monarch, of course you have your own considerations. Just watch the show, said Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. He counted with his fingers and stared at the screen in front of him. It should be about time. Lu Renfeng would probably be tempted. The underground passageways of Phoenix's laboratory extended in all directions. Lu Renfeng's original purpose in designing this was to establish an encrypted passageway into the underground, and it was also out of consideration for the layout of Plan Number 2. These underground tunnels extended for a very long distance. At this moment, all the android Lu Renfeng came out in full force, each carrying a spirit stone and an array flag. Both Li Xian and Zhang Ziden cast invisibility spells on themselves and looked down from the sky. He could clearly see the layout of the androids after Lu Renfeng passed through various secret passages. The outermost layer of this secret passage was a very standard circle. Without even looking, one could tell that it was an array disk. It was just that Lu Renfeng would not be able to set up such a large array formation with her own strength. Energy formation of all illumination? Li Xian carefully observed the layout and details of the formation, and soon associated it with the origin of this formation. This was a spirit-gathering formation that could absorb the spirit energy of all the cultivators inside it, and was divided into two types: voluntary contribution and forced extraction. If a cultivator standing inside the formation voluntarily contributed, he only needed to raise his hands above his head. But Lu Renfeng obviously wouldn't do that. In order to open the infinite secret realm, she could only force extraction. Looks like it's confirmed. Zhang Ziden said, this Lu Renfeng really has an ancient brother behind her, but I don't know who this brother is. I remember that the energy formation of all illumination was developed by the Heartless Ancestor, and it's said that he only passed it on to his disciples. But the heartless ancestor himself is now locked up in the corpse-wrapping painting. The corners of Li Xian's mouth twitched and he said rather helplessly, "And that guy used to say every day that he wanted to take a disciple, but so far I've never heard who his disciple is." Speaking of the heartless ancestor, he was also an all-powerful powerhouse in ancient times. But unfortunately, the heartless ancestor had a small problem, and that was that he was very stingy. There was a banquet where the heartless ancestor invited everyone, including Dao ancestor Wang. In order to save money, he bought a lot of fake wine from a wine merchant and only let Dao ancestor Wang drink the real wine. In the end, Dao ancestor Wang's wine gourd was somehow switched at the banquet. Then there were only 5 sounds of dun 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 dun, and the gourd of fake wine was drunk by Dao ancestor Wang. And then there was Dao ancestor Wang, who had drunk the fake wine, put the heartless ancestor and the wine merchant into the corpse-wrapping painting on the spot. Looking back at that period of history, Li Xian couldn't help but sigh. Why did you provoke such a good person? At this moment, there was a sudden exclamation on the battlefield in the northern suburbs, which had been silent for a long time. What's this? Some cultivators noticed that something was wrong, and the expressions on the faces of those sky-level sect masters all looked terrified. It's a big formation. A big formation that can cover the northern suburbs. What? How could Lu Renfeng have the ability to set up such a big formation? Each and every one of them looked panic-stricken, which stupefied Qion in the command center. Because this was all within the scope of the plan. In the end, he hadn't expected these sky-level sect masters and their disciples to be so good at acting. At that moment, each and every one of them contributed their outstanding acting skills to the fullest. My spirit energy is being sucked out. No, I can feel my life slipping away. The cultivators trapped in the formation cried out one after another, their expressions as if they were about to die. In fact, their spirit energy hadn't been sucked out. The spirit energy that Lu Renfeng had absorbed had all been provided by Wang Ling. At that moment, he was crouching at the entrance to the secret land. As he read the exercises in front of him, he raised both hands to transmit his spirit energy over. It's done. Lu Renfeng, who was guarding the lab, looked pleasantly surprised through the android. The amount of spirit energy that the array had absorbed was too much. It was far beyond his imagination. Ah! She couldn't stop laughing wildly. I never thought that Lu Renfeng would actually succeed. The cultivation world will soon welcome a new generation of phoenix chicks. That will be the beginning of a new era for me, Lu Renfeng. As soon as his voice fell, the controlled android quickly regained its silence. It looked like Lu Renfeng had already withdrawn the mental link with her real body and was ready to act on her own. Shou Chong was pressed down on the ground by several androids and couldn't move. At that moment, all his hopes were dashed and he only felt that the situation was hopeless. Bzzz. There was a bang. When the entrance to the secret land opened at the location which Lu Renfeng had set in advance, this crazy woman rubbed her hands together and couldn't hide the excitement on her face as she stepped in. She thought that when she opened the door, she would see a dazzling new world. In the end, what she saw was a teenager doing homework at a desk. Lu Renfeng laughed. I never thought that there would be a doorman in this infinite secret land. At that moment, Wang Ling raised his head to look at her. After confirming that this was Lu Renfeng's real body, he used just one look to firmly block the door to the secret land behind Lu Renfeng. In that instant, a terrifying pressure extinguished all of Lu Renfeng's excitement. Wait. This situation didn't seem right. Chapter 1637. The truth was that Wang Ling wasn't in a hurry to exert pressure on her. He just raised his gaze to meet Lu Renfeng's indifferent gaze. In that moment, this young Madame Phoenix's mind instantly went blank. She was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She didn't understand what was happening in front of her. She felt as if she had stepped into an abyss the moment she stepped into the mystic realm. She was clearly being stared at by a young man who looked like a high school student. How could she, Madame Phoenix, feel fear? Lu Renfeng couldn't believe what she was seeing. She had chased after the infinite mystic realm for far too long. Now that she had finally made it in, her path was blocked by a young man. Lu Renfeng could not accept this fact no matter what. I will never kill those boys who are good-looking. Lu Renfeng stared at the pressure and said. As she spoke, she deliberately avoided Wang Ling's gaze. That was the only way she could be a little more normal. Although at this moment, her body was still trembling uncontrollably. Wang Ling could see that Lu Renfeng actually had a backup plan. As a well-known underground scientist both at home and abroad, Madame Phoenix definitely wasn't unprepared for the fact that she dared to appear in her true form. Battle Sect and Huaxiao Alliance's request was to capture Lu Renfeng alive, so Wang Ling naturally had to be careful not to go overboard. If he killed her, it wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess. Thus, Wang Ling continued to stare at Lu Renfeng, intending to watch the ants dance and see what on earth Lu Renfeng would perform next. Child, I only need the materials in this mystic realm. With these materials and my skills, I can become the richest person in the world. At this moment, Lu Renfeng's tone changed and she actually began to walk the gentle path. If you don't stop me, I can guarantee you a luxurious life for the rest of your life. You look young, so there should be a lot of things you want to buy, right? If possible, Lu Renfeng also hoped that they wouldn't start a fight here. She didn't know Wang Ling's background, nor did she know how he had come to this infinite secret realm. But one thing was certain, Wang Ling was very young. On Lu Renfeng, there was an AI intelligent analysis system in her body. While Lu Renfeng and Wang Ling were talking, she had already scanned Wang Ling's face and found the corresponding answer from the big data in the National Treasury. Although he did not know why the photo was a bunch of mosaics. However, the information indeed showed that the young man in front of him was only at the foundation establishment stage. Of course, Lu Renfeng was well aware that Wang Ling was probably hiding his true realm. Otherwise, why would he make her feel so oppressed? How interesting. He's just a 16-year-old boy, but he actually has the battle prowess of a soul formation cultivator? After the initial panic, Lu Renfeng, who had obtained the data, revealed a hint of excitement in her heart. A 16-year-old youth with the combat power of a soul formation cultivator, if this matter were to be spread, it would definitely cause an uproar in the world. However, she was not prepared to reveal this matter. Instead, he came up with a new plan. If she could trick Wang Ling or defeat him here, Wang Ling wouldn't be able to escape. Then she would cut open Wang Ling's stomach and take out his spirit root for research. Finally, she would use the core technology of artificial spirit root to replicate it. Then, soon she would have an army of soul formation stage cultivators in her hands. The more Lu Renfeng thought about it, the more excited she became. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up crazily. Therefore, after a short period of consideration, she changed her previous offensive strategy and decided to use the temptation of benefits to see if she could make a breakthrough. Because after her AI analysis, she was sure that Wang Ling was indeed only 16 years old. Although there were countless elixirs and magic treasures for beauty enhancement in the cultivation world nowadays, the rising sun chi that belonged to a young man couldn't be deceived. The older a cultivator was, the less rising sun chi they had. This was a special way of distinguishing between young cultivators. Even though he was a genius at the soul formation stage, he was only 16 years old in the end. She felt that given Wang Ling's state of mind, he might not be able to withstand the temptation of this colorful world. Child, I'm old enough to be your grandmother, so I really don't want to fight you. With you. Lu Renfeng smiled and said, you should have a lot of things you want to buy, right? No matter what kind of magic treasure or luxury goods you like, as long as you like them, I can buy them for you. Apart from these, real estate, cars, toys, beautiful women, if you're willing to cooperate with me, you can choose whatever you want. There are also countless snacks. Hearing the word snacks, Wang Ling blinked. A drop of cold sweat trickled down his cheek as he cursed in his heart. He had actually been a little shaken just now. But very quickly Wang Ling regained his composure. Fortunately, he always had a poker face, so even if Lu Renfeng used her smart chi to directly scan and analyze his face, she wouldn't be able to detect any subtle changes. Because of Wang Ling's long silence, the situation was once again at an impasse. He's not going to accept these temptations. Lu Renfeng also felt that it was inconceivable. She hadn't expected Wang Ling's Dao heart to be so stable. However, in a situation where she couldn't tempt him, she only had one last option left. Lu Renfeng didn't know where on earth Wang Ling had come from. But if a mere soul formation cultivator wanted to stop her, he was looking down on her, the young Madame Phoenix, too much. Since negotiations have failed, Grandma has no other choice. You're my grandson, so Grandma will try to be as gentle as possible when I make a move. Wang Ling. While she was speaking, Lu Renfeng stretched out her hand and a light condensed in her palm. Wang Ling noticed that Lu Renfeng had a special ring on her finger. This was a spatial magic treasure that used space folding techniques. Unlike those storage rings, this ring could transfer items from a designated space to another space through a folding technique. And then, bzzz. The instant the light from the ring spread out, the space that resonated with it actually formed vortex wormholes in the walls of the void. In a short period of time, countless mechanical crawlers poured out of the wormholes. These mechanical crawlers swarmed out of space like locusts, spreading their mechanical wings and flying in the air. After Lu Renfeng clapped her hands, the mechanical crawlers instantly spread out and took root in the ground like dense raindrops. Magic bean soldiers, Lu Renfeng said calmly. Wang Ling saw these mechanical crawlers actually take root and sprout in this short period of time. In just a few seconds, this young Madame Phoenix swiftly summoned countless Lu Renfengs from the ground with the bean soldier's technique. Wang Ling could only estimate the number. At that moment, there were no less than 300,000 artificial humans gathered in the secret land. But no matter how many there were, they were just a bunch of scrap metal in Wang Ling's eyes. Seeing that Wang Ling's expression was still calm, Lu Renfeng couldn't help saying at that moment, "I know that my artificial humans might not be able to deal with you. But if everyone's strength can be combined, that's a different story." As soon as Lu Renfeng said this, she stretched out her hand and gently squeezed. Wang Ling saw these artificial humans actually start to transform on the spot. Holding each other's hands, they swiftly linked together and merged into one, actually transforming into an incomparably huge red mecha armor. Lu Renfeng's real body was already sitting inside this 50-meter-tall mecha armor during this transformation process. This Fire Phoenix mecha armor was Lu Renfeng's proudest creation. Using artificial spirit roots as a medium, the mecha's attributes would be amplified by 300,000 times. That was to say, as long as she sat in this mecha armor, even grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who was currently the strongest person on Earth and had reached the true venerated level, wouldn't be her match. On the other side, after hearing Lu Renfeng's thoughts, Wang Ling couldn't help sighing in his heart. He had never expected this young Madame Phoenix to actually compare herself to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. After all, for him, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was just a unit of combat strength. At that moment, the huge Fire Phoenix mecha armor blotted out the sky and covered Wang Ling like a boundless shadow. In the face of this mountain-like mecha armor, Wang Ling's mind suddenly went blank. It wasn't that he was afraid. It was that he didn't know where on earth he should start. Chapter 1638. In the space of a few breaths, Lu Renfeng had used the so-called bean soldiers method to assemble such a large army of androids, and in the blink of an eye, they had swiftly assembled into this 50-meter-tall mecha armor in front of Wang Ling. It wasn't hard for Wang Ling to see that Lu Renfeng had clearly been preparing for today's event for a long time. It was almost impossible to mass-produce androids of this scale in a short period of time, and it would take time. On the other hand, these androids weren't cheap. Given Lu Renfeng's accumulated foundation, Wang Ling felt that it would be very difficult for her to produce androids of this scale without the help of someone else. This was a woman who was afraid of poverty. Her words were filled with the evil flavor of capitalism. Wang Ling could see that Lu Renfeng wanted to use this to turn things around. With the almost inexhaustible resources in Infinite Secret Realm, she would be able to build her own army of androids, and then vigorously develop an industrial chain for artificial spirit roots, which would go down in the annals of modern cultivation history. At that moment, Wang Ling sighed silently in his heart. It was a pity that this young Madame Phoenix had run into him. It was one thing for her to make some money, but Wang Ling didn't quite understand why some people just had to provoke him. In the air, Lu Renfeng's real body was linked to the Fire Phoenix mecha armor's spiritual will. She didn't need to use any buttons to control it. She just needed to place both hands on the special psychic pilot seat, and she could control it as one. The massive Fire Phoenix mecha armor was a little more agile than Wang Ling had imagined. In the sky above the primeval forest of Infinite Secret Realm, the melodious sound of a subwoofer cannon came from the Fire Phoenix mecha armor. Rather than calling it a song, it would be more accurate to call it a low and deep phoenix cry. Then, two projectile blades more than 10 meters wide popped out from the back of the mecha armor's arms. Accompanied by the subwoofer cannon's song, the fiery red projectile blades were covered in a layer of red spirit light. This was a combination spell that combined sound waves with a magical effect, and was similar to the roar of some spirit beasts before a battle. At this particular frequency, apart from being able to produce a magical effect, it could also affect things around the battlefield. Lu Renfeng wanted to capture Wang Ling alive, which was why she had used this method. Under certain conditions, a phoenix cry of this particular frequency could induce hallucinations. Furthermore, she had already rearranged the frequency of the phoenix cry based on Wang Ling's current realm. He was sure that this was a sound wave that could suppress a soul formation cultivator. But in the face of such a powerful sound wave, Wang Ling's expression didn't change at all. He's not affected at all. Lu Renfeng was astonished. Then he saw the young man, who was the size of an ant, standing on his tiptoes and ascending over 100 meters into the air before stopping. At the same time, the void changed and Lu Renfeng saw her surroundings changing rapidly. The battlefield above the primeval jungle of the infinite mystery land was quickly transformed into the endless and deep universe. Lu Renfeng could see the Milky Way and even Earth, which was not far away. This wasn't a universe of the real world, but one that Wang Ling had constructed, and could be said to be a complete replica of the real world's universe. It was because there were no other living beings in this universe. Intrinsic spirit field? Within the fiery phoenix mecha, Lu Renfeng's eyes widened, and she was completely astonished by the boundless universe and the dazzling galaxy before her. She knew about the existence of intrinsic spirit fields, but she didn't know that the place she had been pulled into was the core world, which was even more powerful than an intrinsic spirit field. Although the fiery phoenix mecha was huge, it was as tiny as an ant in the backdrop of the universe. Although she was sitting in the mecha, her brain felt like it had stopped working. It was at this moment that Lu Renfeng realized with a start that Wang Ling's strength might be far beyond what she had imagined. "Who the hell are you?" Her voice started to tremble and she started to launch a frenzied attack. In her helpless rage, 2 enchanted projectile blades shot out at an extremely high speed at the speed of sound to slash at Wang Ling's head. Wang Ling stood motionless on the spot. The 2 projectile blades attacked from left and right. The moment they struck his head, not even a single hair fell off his head, while the blades had already shattered into pieces. Lu Renfeng hadn't expected to be hit so hard. In her extreme panic, the fiery phoenix mecha fired even more fiercely at Wang Ling from all its outlets. Boom, boom, boom. For a moment, Wang Ling's core world was filled with all kinds of explosions. The fiery phoenix mecha contained folded nanomissiles, which was also a black technology developed by Lu Renfeng. Even the explosive power of a nuclear bomb was only the size of a grain of rice, so the fiery phoenix mecha had a huge reserve of ammunition. Wang Ling didn't want to open the barrier at first, but after all, it wasn't worth it to dirty his school uniform, so he put up a spirit power field for himself. The nanomissiles bombarded the extremely thin barrier without even the slightest crack. Impossible. This is impossible. It was obvious that Lu Renfeng was already a little crazy. She clutched her head with a terrified expression on her face. Then a dazzling holy light appeared behind Wang Ling. Lu Renfeng. This is... Defeating the other party in the field they were most confident in was Wang Ling's usual method. That god of the grave had thought that he controlled time and space, but he had been locked in a fixed ending forever. He could jump out of time and space, but he couldn't escape the ending that Wang Ling had personally arranged for him. Just like the Lu Renfeng in front of him, bean soldiers. It was obvious that this was one of Lu Renfeng's proudest skills. In a short period of time, through the combination of nanotechnology and cultivation space folding technology, androids with fleshly bodies were instantly created. In the eyes of other cultivators, this would indeed seem to be quite an incredible thing. At that moment, Wang Ling was standing in his own core world. Immortal holy light radiated from his back as he stood firm, like a god of the universe. Then there was a hum. With Wang Ling as its center, this holy light turned into a circular shock wave, like a huge ripple in the center of the universe, which instantly extended hundreds of millions of light-years away. Then Lu Renfeng felt this dazzling light gradually dim. As this holy light dissipated, what appeared in front of Lu Renfeng was an incomparably terrifying scene. In front of her, she saw countless Wang Lings surrounding her. These clones that had been born from Wang Ling's body gave off cosmic starlight. Some were formed from meteorites, some were formed from stars, and most of them were formed from dust. Wang Ling's holy light turned all the dust within a radius of hundreds of millions of light-years into himself. This was truly an innumerable number of Wang Ling's Wang Ling. It was impossible for her to tell them apart with the naked eye. Then pop! There was a bang. Wang Ling snapped his fingers. The countless clones scattered like the wind, turning back into the trillions of dust particles in the universe. Lu Renfeng was completely awake with this snap of Wang Ling's fingers. She thoroughly realized that her realm and that of the youngster in front of her weren't in the same dimension at all. Just like that. This underground scientist was the famous young phoenix madam, Lu Renfeng. Her heart was shaken to the core. She stopped thinking. P.S. How many people have stopped thinking already? Everyone, please post your answers directly in this chapter. Those who get it right can contact Big Faced Cat, the administrator of the book group, for a small red packet. Chapter 1639. Under the double assault of sight and spirit, there was a certain probability that the soul would short-circuit. The fact that this famous underground scientist had stopped thinking and was no longer struggling was a great help in carrying out the plan to capture Wang Ling alive. But Wang Ling somehow felt that things weren't that simple. He raised his hand and carefully used the Great Decomposition spell to slowly disintegrate the Fire Phoenix mecha armor from the outside to expose Lu Renfeng's body, which was hidden inside. At the same time, Wang Ling cast a temporary golden light of adaptation on Lu Renfeng so that her body could withstand all the pressure in space. She was an itinerant immortal, but at this level she still couldn't fight in space. Of course, it wasn't that Wang Ling hadn't thought about directly digging out her heart, but he was afraid that the impact would be too great and Lu Renfeng would directly disappear. At this moment, Lu Renfeng was still in her original position. She sat there with her eyes wide open. Her expression was frozen in fear, and she looked like she had been petrified. Then Wang Ling had directly summoned Audiobook here. As expected of Shifu. Honestly speaking, Audiobook wasn't surprised by the situation in front of him after he appeared. He had already expected this outcome. "I'll leave her to you," Wang Ling said with a nod. "Don't worry, Shifu. Just leave the aftermath to me." Audiobook cupped his fists in a salute. This wasn't the first time he had been the scapegoat, and he was already very used to it. The only fly in the ointment this time was that Zhou Zi hadn't been able to make a contribution in this battle or show his face in front of Wang Ling or something. Audiobook was extremely optimistic about Zhou Zi and was willing to take him in as a disciple, but Wang Ling wouldn't budge, so there was nothing he could do. The man in front of him was no longer the man he used to be. Previously, a Crispy Noodle Snacks annual card had been enough. Bribing him with an annual card now probably wouldn't work. But he didn't show his thoughts in front of Wang Ling, and respectfully sent him off as usual before he stayed behind to deal with Lu Renfeng. Wang Ling shared a portion of the King's Eye's power with Audiobook. One reason was so that Audiobook could freely use the King's Eye's ability to travel freely in various spaces, and the other was to increase his battle strength. Of course, when it came down to it, it would be better for Audiobook to clean up the mess for him. Lu Renfeng had seen Wang Ling's face, so she definitely had to tamper with this part of her memory, and she also had to change things about the core world. This was combat strength that had already surpassed Earth's realm. It would be very strange if Lu Renfeng poured everything out when she woke up. Therefore, in the infinite mystic realm, he revised almost all of Lu Renfeng's memories of the battle just now. After making sure that he did not miss anything, he heaved a sigh of relief. If Lu Renfeng woke up now, the person she had been fighting wouldn't be Wang Ling but Audiobook. There should be no problem now. Audiobook wiped at his sweat. It wasn't his first time doing this, but he couldn't help feeling a little nervous. Tampering with memories could lead to mental disorder. Huaxiao Alliance had ordered Lu Renfeng to be captured alive because they knew that she could still be of use to them. Battle Sect Command Center. The moment Lu Renfeng's real body stepped into the infinite mystic realm, the Alliance army responsible for besieging the base finally blew the horn to attack. The members of the base in Phoenix's underground laboratory as well as Lu Renfeng's androids were all stupefied. The spirit energy of these cultivators had clearly been sucked away by the Great Array just now, but at that moment, each and every one of them actually crawled up from the ground and directly announced that they were going to attack. F***K. So was that an act just now? The members of the underground base all had incredulous looks on their faces. Lu Renfeng's real body was already under control, and the command center was left without a leader. In a split second, the entire underground laboratory that extended in all directions was a mess. Following Qion's intelligent deployment, the large-scale Alliance army surrounded the underground laboratory in an orderly manner. The capture operation lasted for several hours. Finally, he heaved a sigh of relief and collapsed with a tired expression. "It's finally over." "No, there's actually one last step left," said Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. "The last step." "Given Lu Renfeng's strength alone, she shouldn't have the guts to take such a risky action," said Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. "Dao Monarch, do you mean that there's another force behind this?" Crispy Noodles nodded. It actually wasn't convenient for him to explain too much to Qion, so he could only leave it at that. "But you don't have to worry, you did a great job commanding the operation this time. Senior Li Xian and Senior Zhang Zipei can handle the rest." "Are they the two new elders?" Qion's eyes lit up. He had heard of these two people's names before. Because they had suddenly joined Battle Sect and become elders all at once, a lot of people were curious about their origins. In addition, after Li Xian and Zhang Zipei joined Battle Sect, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had given them the position of guest elder. It was equivalent to some honorary professors in cultivation universities. It sounded like they were from Battle Sect, but it was in fact just a title. But this name was actually directly hanging out his net worth. This was because Li Xian and Zhang Zipei were currently the only two elders in battle sect in name. Their names had been famous in ancient times, but they weren't known in the modern cultivation world. Now that they had become honorary elders all of a sudden, the many speculations undoubtedly deepened the mystery of these two people. While Qion and Crispy Noodles were giving instructions, Li Xian and Zhang Zipei were also looking for traces of the person behind the scenes. Following the lead of the All Things Illuminating Vitality Array, the two of them found some clues based on the layout and technique of the array. Zhang Zizi smiled. Interesting. From the technique, it does seem like the work of that heartless ancestor. If it's him, he indeed has the ability to launch that Thousand Faces spell. But he's clearly already been locked up in the painting. He can only be a pile of bones now, said Li Xian. Zhang Zipei shook his head. Brother, you're being too absolute. Dao Ancestor Wang is indeed terrifyingly powerful, but there are no less than tens of thousands of people locked up in the corpse painting, hundreds of millions of ancient experts. Can you guarantee that this old thief won't fail miserably in an easy task? It's like an idol star who recently debuted and whose parents are revealed to be old thugs. There are no absolutes in this world. He deceived Dao Ancestor Wang, he's a genius. Li Xian sighed. Zhang Zipei, there's one more thing that makes me certain that he was behind all this. Li Xian, what is it? Zhang Zipei, remember those ancient divine weapons that the Grave God summoned when Ling Jinren and the Grave God fought at the very beginning? Li Xian nodded. Of course I remember, that was the army that the Grave God created. In the end, Dao Ancestor's Dharma image creature chased them down, and only a few hundred of them are left from that army of 10 million. Zhang Zipei, when Ling Jinren synchronized the battle in the inner world just now, I saw Lu Renfeng's Fire Phoenix mecha armor, and felt that it was similar to that ancient divine weapon. Hearing this, Li Xian was shocked. So Ancestor Wuxin was the one who built these ancient divine weapons? Zhang Zipei, he was a famous mechanic in ancient times. Because all the parts on his body could be replaced, and his heart was also a mechanical heart, he got the nickname Wuxin. Li Xian, but how do you know so much? Zhang Zipei, his wife told me. Li Xian, brother Zipei, don't tell me. Zhang Zipei, let bygones be bygones. This old man hasn't been Sea King for many years. Li Xian. Chapter 1640. The name Wuxin was also a well-known figure in ancient times. He was a well-known mechanic and had the nickname of half-divine soldier. In terms of popularity, he was not weaker than Zhang Ziden's reputation. If Wuxin had not been locked up by Dao Ancestor Wang, he would have had black technology far beyond modern cultivation civilization in ancient times. However, the timeline had changed after all. In the corpse wrapping painting, the ancient powerhouses who were locked up by Dao Ancestor Wang were now skeletons, and Wuxin's image was actually very obvious, because no one had gears in their bones. After Zhang Ziden was locked up in the corpse wrapping painting, he found that Wuxin's condition was not very good. As far as he was concerned, Wuxin had always been a relatively open and active person, but after being locked up in the painting he seemed to be a little autistic. He did not expect Wuxin's ability to withstand pressure to be so poor, so Zhang Ziden did not care too much at that time. After all, not everyone was as shameless as him. But now, combined with many things in front of him, Zhang Ziden was more and more sure of his guess, that the Wuxin ancestor locked in the corpse wrapping painting was definitely not himself. Because everyone knew that he was a half-divine soldier, who was imprisoned in the corpse wrapping painting and turned into a skeleton with all kinds of parts on his body, but unexpectedly, these parts in the corpse wrapping painting became the biggest camouflage. As the saying goes, a leaf can blind the eye. Zhang Ziden did not expect that he would be fooled by Wuxin. This half-divine soldier is interesting. Zhang Ziden snickered. But with Dao Ancestor Wang's strength, even if he was deceived at the beginning, he should be able to see it later. Li Xian was puzzled. Dao Ancestor Wang, this old thief, was angry in a moment. After he calmed down, he would not pursue it. Zhang Ziden said, of course there is another possibility, that is, he left Wuxin outside for another purpose. All this time, Zhang Zizi still held a grudge against Dao Ancestor Wang for sucking all the ancient experts into the corpse wrapping painting without a word. It was reasonable to say that with Dao Ancestor Wang's realm, he wouldn't be so narrow-minded. Moreover, Zhang Zizi felt that the matter with Old God wasn't entirely his fault. He did like other people's wives, but he still respected the other party's wishes. Although he was a playboy, he didn't like to force others to have sex with him. If you can't get it, then use force. From Zhang Zipei's point of view, that was undoubtedly an action that would cause his butt to rot. It was true that he was dissatisfied with Dao Ancestor Wang until now, but this string of actions of Dao Ancestor Wang caused Zhang Ziqin to have no choice but to suspect that perhaps all of this was a trap. Moreover, only that man had the ability to set up a trap. Several minutes later, following the traces of the magic circle, Zhang Zidin and Li Xian approached the location of the North Pole. When they arrived at a certain coordinate, Li Xian suddenly stretched out his hand and pulled Zhang Zipei back. "Brother Zipei, be careful. I know. There's a void Dharma realm here." Zhang Zipei stood with his hands clasped behind his back, floating in the void with Li Xian. This was another technique that had been passed down from the ancient times. The essence of the void Dharma realm was in fact a smokescreen, and people with low realms wouldn't be able to sense it so easily. That was to say, someone had set up this barrier in the North Pole and was trying to secretly do something inside. Thus, it was very likely that the entire North Pole had already been transformed, and the vast expanse of icebergs and snow had probably long since been reduced to nothingness. "Should we go take a look?" Li Xian said with a frown. The space inside the void Dharma realm was completely independent and isolated from the outside world. Once the two of them went in and fell into a trap, they might not be able to return. Li Xian was still hesitant. After all, he and Zhang Zidin were carrying out a mission together. If they failed because they were too rash, some of his points would be deducted, and the loss outweighed the gain. "I've already reported our location to Mr. Zhua. If we can't get out, he'll think of another way." To Li Xian's surprise, Zhang Zidin, who had always been very reckless, was exceptionally cautious at this moment. "Since Brother Zidin has said so, let's go in and take a look. Do you think the Heartless Patriarch is inside?" "Most likely," Zhang Zidin said. It had been a long time since they had arrived on Earth, and the ancient experts were relatively more reclusive. If the Heartless Patriarch had come to Earth from ancient times, he would have chosen this North Pole long ago and taken root here. But this was just Zhang Zidin's guess. Lu Renfeng's incident had been nothing more than a trivial matter to Zhang Zidin. He hadn't expected it to actually involve ancient times, which instantly piqued Zhang Zidin's interest. There were too many mysteries left, and he and Li Xian could only solve them one by one. Was the ancient brother who had set up the array the Heartless Patriarch, who was known as a half-step divine weapon? And what was the Heartless Patriarch's purpose in taking Lu Renfeng as his disciple? These things could only be found out after they stepped into the void Dharma realm. When Li Xian and Zhang Zizi both stretched out their hands and touched the boundary of the illusory world of nothingness, the two figures instantly disappeared along with a spurt of mist, submerging into it. Zhang Zidin and Li Xian were greatly shocked by the scene in front of them. This, because what they saw in the void Dharma realm was a completely different scene. It was a city built of steel and concrete, shining with all kinds of neon lights, and countless mechanical flying objects hovering in the air in an orderly manner. It was actually another world inside the void Dharma realm. Li Xian and Zhang Zidin were stupefied and completely speechless. Because the scene in front of them was too cyberpunk, and very much like the online game they had seen Wei Ji play a few days ago. They had just arrived in modern cultivation society and had yet to fully adapt to it. This technology city in front of them, which looked like it had been built completely ahead of time, instantly left them dumbfounded once again. Meanwhile, on the other side, Audiobook received a report from Zhang Zidin. The void Dharma realm? Although Zhang Zidin and Li Xian were already on the move, Audiobook felt that this was a good opportunity to make a contribution. Of course, it wasn't because he wanted to make a contribution, but mainly because he wanted to help Zhou Zi. Given his current combat strength. Of course, it was mainly because he had the shared ability of the King's Eye. It wasn't a problem at all for him to do whatever he wanted. "How is it? Can your legs move well?" he asked as he looked at Zhou Zi. Zhou Zi's legs had grown very quickly because of the various nutritional supplements that Ryoko Kamiya and Lotus Sun had sent him. "I feel like I can still grow a little taller, but it's no problem for me to move normally." "Brother Zhua," Zhou Zi said. "So, do you want to go out and cultivate with me?" Audiobook smiled. "Ah, but didn't we just resolve the matter with Lu Renfeng?" "It's not about Lu Renfeng, it's about something else," Audiobook said. "And your performance on this mission may have something to do with whether or not you can become my disciple." Zhou Zi was instantly excited. "I'm willing to go." "Good. But you have to stay close to me during the operation," Audiobook said. "Understood." Zhou Zi bared his teeth. At that moment, this naive youngster still didn't know what he was about to see. Audiobook then quickly sent a text message to Lotus Sun to inform her of the matter. The general content was a copy and paste of what Zhang Zidin had said. That was, if he and Zhou Zi didn't come out of the world of nothingness, after a while, he would think of a way to rescue them. Done. After confirming that the message had been delivered, Ajwa breathed a slight sigh of relief. Then he took out 5 sets of long johns from the wardrobe and gave them to Zhou Zi. These were all long johns which Wang Ling had personally enchanted. Furthermore, they were the upgraded version 3.0, so there was no need to hide one's head and limbs in the long johns, and they could still protect the whole body. Wang Ling had given Ajwa a lot of them before, and today he had taken out all his trump cards. Zhou Zi was alarmed. Brother Zhua, these are, Ajwa, they're for you to save your life. After you put them on, even if we separate, no one can hurt you. Zhou Zi was doubtful. These are just long johns, will they work? Ajwa laughed. When have I ever lied to you? Zhou Zi, but will we be gone for long? Do we have to bring so many clothes? Ajwa, who told you to change? Put them all on. It's like a nesting doll, understand? Zhou Zi, at that moment, this naive youngster still didn't know that after putting on 5 enchanted layers of long johns, his armor value had already been raised to the maximum. Chapter 1641. Ajwa wasn't stupid and was well aware of how dangerous this illusion world of nothingness was. Zhang Zidi and Li Xianke were both ancient almighties, but even they weren't completely confident before entering, and had even left behind information in advance. It was obvious that this illusion world wasn't as simple as it seemed. There would definitely be danger. If he went by himself, he wouldn't have to worry about anything because of the shared power of the King's Eye. However, if he were to bring Zhou Zi along with Zhou Zi's strength, it would be no different from sending him to his death. However, after putting on 5 layers of version 3.0 long johns, everything had changed, so sometimes, it wasn't because he was afraid of pain that he activated all his defenses. It was also possible that he was wearing too many long johns. Ajwa had already told Lotus Sun before setting off with Zhou Zi, but he hadn't revealed this to Kamiya Ryoko, because he didn't have any extra long johns in his inventory. The main thing was that it would be safer for one person to wear the 5 long johns, and it wouldn't be effective if they were worn separately. Most importantly, Kamiya Ryoko didn't like thick clothes, so he didn't tell her about bringing Zhou Zi to cultivate. She only said that she was going out with Zhou Zi and would be back soon. On the other side, Lotus Sun received a text message from Ajwa. She actually had no intention of betraying Ajwa, but the current situation was a little awkward because Kamiya Ryoko just so happened to be next to her. Today she had come to the villa where Kamiya Ryoko lived mainly to discuss buying Wang Ling a birthday present. December 26th. In other words, tomorrow. It was Wang Ling's birthday. Lotus Sun was struggling with what gift to give Wang Ling. In fact, it wasn't just Lotus Sun. The entire battle sect was secretly preparing for a birthday present. If it was just simple crispy noodle snacks, it probably wouldn't be enough to satisfy this crispy noodle maniac's expanding needs. Perhaps other people's gifts weren't so exquisite. But she, apart from the gift, she also wanted to use it to convey her feelings to Wang Ling once again. However, she knew his personality. He would definitely not like a gift that was too flashy. So today, not long after Lu Renfeng's matter came to an end, she found Komiya Yoshiko to discuss the gift. They hadn't even officially discussed it yet. Just then, Ajwa happened to receive a text message. Him again. Why did he always bring him out? You didn't even bring me along. Ryoko Komiya crossed her arms and complained. Lotus Sun hadn't expected Komiya Ryoko's eyesight to be so good. She was clearly sitting across from her, and when she glanced at her screen, the text message was written backwards. How could she see it so clearly? Yoshiko, your eyesight is so good. Humph. If your Wang Ling were to send me a text message at this time, you would also be able to see it clearly, said Komiya Ryoko. Sometimes girls were more sensitive. This was in fact thanks to the fact that she had sent so many messages to Ajwa that whenever the word Ajwa appeared anywhere, even if it was written backwards, Ryoko would still be able to recognize it in a second. Ryoko Komiya's words made Lotus Sun blush to her ears. What do you mean by, my royal order? I just realized that you've become bad, Ryoko? Ryoko Komiya, is that my royal order? Lotus Sun, absolutely not. Ryoko Komiya laughed. I'm just kidding. Look at how nervous you are. I already have him. As she spoke, she stared at the phone screen. But I still don't understand. Why is he so concerned about Zhou Zi? Isn't it just taking him in as a disciple? If he wants to take him in, he can. Because Wang Ling was involved, it was actually quite complicated. and it wasn't convenient for Lotus Sun to talk about it for the time being. After all, as far as Ryoko knew, Wang Ling was still Ajua's disciple. But Lotus Sun felt that it wouldn't be too long before Ryoko learned the truth about Wang Ling's true strength. But in the end, Ajua would have to come forward and confess this matter to Ryoko. It actually wasn't appropriate for her to come forward herself. At that moment, Lotus Sun sighed silently in her heart. She had asked Ryoko Kamiya out just to discuss the birthday present, but in the end something else had come up, and now it looked like it would be very troublesome. She could only comfort her. After all, you're going out to cultivate together, and that place might be more dangerous. That's why he didn't bring you along. The more Ryoko thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. But the problem is that this Zhou Zi's realm is about the same as mine. Why can he go to men? Do you think it's possible that they went to some indecent place? No way, Senior Zhou isn't that kind of person, said Lotus Sunday, but I just don't feel at ease. Ryoko had an anxious look on her face as she sighed. You haven't fallen in love yet, so you don't understand. Ajua and I are just at the beginning of our relationship. It's normal to feel this way. After saying this, Ryoko was slow to realize that her words seemed to stab Lotus Sun's heart, and she hurriedly apologized. Sorry Rongrong, I didn't mean to. It's fine. Lotus Sun smiled awkwardly. She felt her mouth turn sour as if she had eaten a lemon slice. Everyone was in love, but it seemed like she was the only one who hadn't found a partner yet. Who knew when that log of wood in the Wang family would blossom? Rongrong. While Lotus Sun's imagination was running wild, Ryoko suddenly called out to her. Lotus Sun, Ryoko, let's go together. Lotus Sun, but we'll be in danger. Actually, Lotus Sun wasn't that afraid, she was mainly worried about Ryoko. And if they went together, she was afraid that her current strength would be exposed to Ryoko. Ryoko smiled. It's fine, I have Ghost Talisman. I have 100,000 ghost soldiers at my disposal. Of course, just the two of us won't be enough. So we have to get help. Looking for help? Lotus Sun had a bad feeling about this. Then she saw Ryoko quickly compose a text message on her cell phone. Lotus Sun, who are you sending it to? Ryoko, Senior Golden Lamp, of course. Lotus Sun, after a few seconds, Kamiya Ryoko suddenly smiled and said, yes. Done. Lotus Sun was shocked. Senior Golden Lamp, agreed? Ryoko, of course, because I was talking to him about getting rid of demons. I didn't mention anything about the illusory realm of nothingness. Lotus Sun, Ryoko, but Senior Golden Lamp also said that he needed to report this matter to be on the safe side. Then he went to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. She didn't know why. After hearing Ryoko say this, Lotus Sun suddenly had an ominous premonition. She felt that the illusory realm of nothingness, it seemed very lively. Chapter 1642. When he received Jimiya Ryoko's text message, Jin Deng only needed to pinch his fingers to figure out what on earth had happened. If it had been before, he would definitely have declined if Jimiya Ryoko had come looking for him. But the situation was different now. The monk admired Wang Ling very much, and had become the vice headmaster of No. 60 High School in order to be closer to him. In order to better understand Wang Ling, he had a very good relationship with Ajua, and now that Jimiya Ryoko was Ajua's person, he naturally had to agree to this request. In fact, Jin Deng had already noticed the illusory world a long time ago. He could more or less guess who the owner of the illusory world was. So far, the illusory world had been relatively peaceful, and nothing major had happened, so the monk naturally couldn't be bothered to pay attention to it. He had lived in seclusion on Earth for a long time. If it wasn't for his friendship with Wang Ling and the fact that he knew he still had a long way to go to cultivate, he would probably still be in seclusion and living a quiet life as a Zen cultivator. Long periods of immersive seclusion naturally brought with it boundless loneliness. Not everyone could be like the monk who could repeatedly knock on the wooden fish in one place for thousands of years. For example, in this illusory world, old guy, you finally can't take it anymore. Jin Deng's face was dark and unruffled. It had already been hundreds of years since he had last quietly entered the illusory world. Now, the technology city built from gear, lights and advanced cosmic alloy had probably already reached a certain scale. It was just that he didn't know how long the city in the illusory world could last after they all went inside. Elsewhere, when grenade-throwing Senior Immortal received the monk's message, he and Loopy Toad were inspecting Shou Chang's destroyed private laboratory. They had obtained information from Lu Renfeng's laboratory. They had received news that Shou Chang was junior brother Lu Renfeng, so they had rushed here without stopping. In the end, they hadn't expected this online celebrity scientist to have already run away. The entire underground laboratory had been cleaned out. He hadn't taken any of the mechanical equipment with him, but had directly blown them up into flying ash. When the battle sect disciples responsible for the arrest arrived, the scene was already a mess. Everyone do your best to search. Don't miss a single corner. Carefully sift through the ashes left in every place, said an outer sect disciple of battle sect wearing a white Taoist robe and carrying a large sword on his back. Yes. The rest of the people replied. The emotions of this group of war sect disciples were abnormally high, although they were still outer sect disciples of the war sect. However, there was also a monthly assessment for the outer sect disciples, which was also divided into grades. The disciple with the huge sword on his back was called Claudius. There were 9 copper coins embroidered on his Taoist robe, which proved that he was a level 9 outer sect disciple of the combat faction. According to the sect's reliable rules, as long as an outer sect disciple had 10 copper coins embroidered on them, they would be qualified to participate in the inner sect assessment. He didn't know if it was because grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was there in person. This great sword disciple also wanted to show the spirit of an outer sect disciple, so he repeated, "I can't hear you." Louder. Yes. The rest of the outer court disciples answered one after another. No. He has no energy at all. But I was already very loud. A disciple retorted in a low voice. In our battle sect, if a 9th-ranked disciple says he can't hear, then he can't hear. The great sword disciple said, "I'll say it again. Search every nook and cranny. Do you understand?" Ming? What? Very good. Very spirited. Sect leader, the equipment in the lab has already been blown up, and we can't find any relevant data. The only clue we have so far is that the composition of the ash on the wall is very similar to that of the androids. In addition, we haven't found any genetic evidence related to Shochong, a sect disciple reported. The composition of the androids? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought for a bit, then snapped his fingers. If he was right, Lu Renfeng had probably sent a team of androids to look for Shochong earlier, and it was very likely that they had threatened him. Inferring from the timing, the explosion in the lab had happened after Lu Renfeng had been arrested. This was in fact an excellent opportunity for Shochong to escape. But there was one thing that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't understand. Since Shochong and Lu Renfeng, this pair of fellow apprentice brother and sister, couldn't get along, it was impossible for them to work together. For Shochong, Lu Renfeng's arrest was probably something to be happy about. He had no reason to run away. But it wasn't impossible to catch Shochong now, which was why he had asked Loopy Toad for help. "Although this king is good at tracking, you should be able to do it too, right?" Loopy Toad said. "It's just that I haven't been on a mission with Brother Dog for a long time, and I kind of miss it." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled. "This place was blown up very cleanly and has been specially treated. If it was a few months ago, given this king's strength, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to track him to this extent. But now I can," Loopy Toad said. Tracking sense was a dog's instinct to begin with. Although it had turned from a toad into a dog, it was now getting more and more used to its body. It looked at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. "Did you take Shochong's personal belongings?" A battle sect disciple approached it of his own accord. "Elder Dog, we've already prepared everything according to sect leader's instructions. We found these things in the apartment under Shochong's name. I don't know if they'll be of any use." "These are enough," Loopy Toad said. "Also, don't call me Elder Dog, call me Mr. Second." It somehow felt that Elder Dog sounded like he was cursing. "All right, Elder Dog. Then what do you want, Mr. Second?" "We've collected tissues that have been stained with an unknown liquid, underwear that has been left in the washing machine but hasn't been washed yet and has an unknown yellow stain, a pair of socks that are no longer white and emit the smell of rotten salted fish, and—" The disciple answered warmly. "Forget it, just bring this bag of things to me, no need to describe them." "All right, Mr. Second." Although Loopy Toad could already imagine how disgusting the things in the bag would be just by listening to the description, when it brought its nose closer, it actually felt like it had almost died from the poison. "Are all older, single, straight men so sloppy?" Loopy Toad was full of disdain. "Ah, it depends. This reminds me of Brother Little Silver," said grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. "Little Silver? What did he do this time?" "It's like this, hasn't Brother Silver been obsessed with writing recently? Recently, he wrote a scene where the male and female leads kiss, and was shocked to realize that their first kiss was gone, while his was still there." Loopy Toad, this was indeed a sad story, After memorizing the indescribable smell in the bag, Loopy Toad's fur stood on end. It's done. Now we just need to set out and find him. Yes, thank you, Brother Dog, said Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Even if he hides at the ends of the earth, this king will definitely find him. And so, about 10 minutes later, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Loopy Toad appeared at the edge of the illusory world's barrier. Chapter 1643. In the illusory world of nothingness, the huge technology city was clearly divided into two major areas. The core area of the city was the most splendid and brilliant place. Just by looking at the shining golden lights there, one could tell that it was the gathering place of the rich gentry. As long as they had enough money, they could do whatever they wanted inside. When Li Xian and Zhang Zizi entered here, they were in the outermost block. The air of this block was filled with a faint smell of engine oil and flashing neon lights of various colors, which made people feel very unreal. The two used invisibility spells and secretly observed the people living in the illusory world of nothingness. Although they had not fully touched the core area, from the feeling of the outer layer, this illusory world of nothingness did indeed have its own independent civilization. At first glance, they knew that it was the work of the heartless ancestor. Because as far as the two of them could see, the people living here were all half-mechanized human cultivators. Even many shops that sold spiritual tools had all kinds of mechanical limbs and mechanical organ parts hanging in the shops. The only overlap with the real world was that the language was still universal. You've created another world and declared yourself a king? This old guy thinks he's playing in Minecraft? Zhang Zizi snickered. Then, in front of Li Xian, he removed one of his right legs and replaced it with a mechanical limb. Li Xian? Zhang Zizi said, don't just stand there, hurry up and remove it. Li Xian, how do I remove it? Zhang Zizi, don't tell me you haven't learned the disintegration technique? Do you want me to teach you? At our level, don't we just casually remove and replace our eyeballs? Isn't it easy to remove a leg? There are only cyborgs here. If we move in public, we will definitely be suspected. Li Xian, although Zhang Zizi's words sounded very reasonable, Li Xian really hadn't learned the disintegration technique. However, both of them were big shots at the immemorial level, and their strength was almost the same, so it was not difficult for them to learn a new spell. Zhang Zian secretly sighed, and had to pass the incantation of the body dissolution technique to Li Xian's mind step by step. Li Xian studied on the spot for more than 10 minutes before he roughly understood it. Then he removed one of his legs. He didn't expect that there was such a magical spell that could remove his limbs or organs. How did you learn the disintegration technique? Li Xian asked curiously. Speaking of which, it was old God who taught me. Zhang Zizi snickered. You know, my ability is very strong. As a result, the old goddess couldn't stop thinking about me, so I took off an arm for her and let her use it herself. Li Xian, Zhang Zizi sighed and said, fortunately, this arm was taken back before I was locked in the painting by Dao ancestor Wang. Otherwise, this right arm that has been with me for countless years might have turned into a fossil outside. Li Xian, after putting on the mechanical legs, Li Xian suddenly realized a very serious problem. He looked at Zhang Zipi. Brother Zipi, where did you get this mechanical leg? Zhang Zi secretly pointed to a shop selling mechanical limbs in front of them. I just went to the front for an inspection, so I came here. As soon as I realized that the currency here is different from the currency outside. That doesn't seem very good, Brother Zipi. You're now the anti-theft squad's consultant. But this is the illusory land of nothingness, so what? I don't care, I have to severely reprimand you for this. Ling Jinren has repeatedly warned me. Li Xian said seriously and exaggeratedly. After all, he and Zhang Zipi had been the first to be released from the corpse picture by Wang Ling, and he had been promoted to captain, so it was his duty to supervise Zhang Zipi's activities in the modern world. It would be an exaggeration to say that Wang Ling had repeatedly warned him, because those who were familiar with him knew that he usually spoke no more than 15 words. But putting that aside, the act of stealing was definitely not right. This was a problem that had to be corrected. It was the same even in the illusory land of nothingness. Fine, can't I think of a way to buy it? Zhang Zipi was helpless, but he could only comply with Li Xian's stubbornness. There was nothing he could do because he was also afraid of Wang Ling. That's fine, but you're not allowed to steal money, said Li Xian. Then, at the speed of lightning, Zhang Zipi returned the mechanical legs that had been thrown over to the shop owner. He then directly led Li Xian over and chose to buy the 2 mechanical legs that he had just put back. How much for these 2? The shop owner, who looked like he weighed more than 100 jin, was wild with joy at the sudden big business. He rubbed his iron hands together and beamed. You two sound like foreigners? What, xenophobic? Zhang Zipi raised his eyebrows. Not at all. This shop has always been about the customer first. The shop owner smiled. The two mechanical legs that this gentleman has taken a fancy to are new arrivals, model Beppel 12 Pro Tigre. Is it the latest model from the core area? Zhang Zipi asked. Sir, you must be joking. You know, the 10 floors outside the core area are all outer rings and are actually where the poor live. There's no essential difference. The shop owner said, to tell you the truth, these two mechanical legs are indeed obsolete products in the core area for the rich. But here in our outer ring they're new. So the price? I know. Just name your price. Zhang Zipi glanced at the shop owner and said, these are the last two mechanical legs of this model in our shop. The current original market price is 1,098 yuan. For both legs, sir, you only need to pay me 2,000 silver cogs. I'll give you a discount. The shop owner grinned. You can use electronic transactions or gear coins. After the shop owner finished speaking, Li Xian stared at Zhang Zipi's movements. He saw Zhang Zipi touch his left pocket, then the other pockets, and finally he took out a stack of money that he had never seen before. The shop owner was overjoyed. When he saw Zhang Zipi take out the money without bargaining, he felt like he had killed a big fat sheep today. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. I look forward to your next visit. Then the two left the shop. They found a dark corner and replaced the mechanical legs. Li Xian frowned deeply, still confused. Brother Zipi, where did you get the money from? Zhang Zipi snickered. I don't have money. Of course it's from the shop owner. Li Xian said, You? Why did you steal his money again? Give it back. Zhang Zipi snickered. Didn't I already give it back? Li Xian said, but our mechanical legs. Zhang Zipi said, what's wrong with the mechanical legs? Aren't these mechanical legs bought with money? I didn't steal them. Look at the shop owner's happy face. He's looking forward to our next visit. Hearing this, Li Xian opened his mouth wide. This genius logic made him speechless for a while. Chapter 1644. In the illusory void, outside the technology city's core area of the 10th ring, mechanical parts were piled up like a mountain. Since they entered the illusory void through different coordinates, the illusory void did not have the same effect. When Ajua and Zhou passed through the outer barrier, they directly appeared in their current position. There were all kinds of mechanical parts piled up here, and the air was filled with the unpleasant smell of gasoline from broken limbs. As soon as they entered, Ajua immediately sealed his and Zhou's nose orifices and used the turtle breathing spell to breathe. Zhou was stunned by the scene in front of him. This kind of apocalyptic sci-fi scene would only appear in a sci-fi blockbuster, giving people a surreal feeling. He followed Ajua past several mechanical hills. Suddenly, a mechanical hand reached out from the gap and grabbed Zhou's trousers. The strength of the stump was not great, but it happened so suddenly that Zhou staggered. In comparison, Ajua was indeed unperturbed, because he knew very well that nothing here could hurt him. Zhou blushed. Brother Zhou, I'm sorry, you probably haven't gone out to cultivate since you lost your legs, so it's inevitable that you lack some experience. A long time ago when I went to the secret land with the seniors to cultivate, I was just as frightened. Ajua smiled. These words were his encouragement to Zhou. At the same time, it also made him feel like a master for the first time. He had taken a fancy to Zhou and decided to take him in not only because of Zhou's character, but also because he wanted to find a strong successor for himself. On the other hand, he also wanted to properly experience what it was like to be a Shifu. If he could figure it out, he might be able to understand Wang Ling better. Using the power of the king's eye, Ajua conducted a carpet search from a god's perspective, and a hologram of the entire illusory world appeared in his mind. It turned out that this was a technological city, a cultivation city built on a mechanized foundation. Brother Zhou? What do we do next? Zhou asked. Before coming to the secret realm, he was full of confidence. However, when he really came to a strange new environment, the fear and mystery that stemmed from the unknown made Zhou's mind go blank. He had no idea what he should do. In fact, this problem wasn't limited to Zhou. Most of the newbies in the cultivation world were like this. Under the current systematic model of compulsory cultivation education, unless there was a very special opportunity, no one would be able to attend college. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, the cultivators who had graduated from university would almost never have the experience of exploring a pocket dimension on their own. Most of them would follow the main group and move together under the protection and organization of the instructors of the university. With the advantage in numbers, they naturally wouldn't feel afraid in a different place. Ajwa had always thought that strictly speaking, it wasn't called exploring a secret land. Instead, it was called a spring outing or an autumn outing. On the contrary, the fewer people there were, the more uneasy they would feel. Z, you don't have to be afraid. What you're wearing right now is a very strong defensive equipment. What, you still don't believe me? Ajwa laughed. I believe you, as if, Long Johns. How could they be so strong? Josie scratched his head. Although Ajwa had already told him before coming here about the power of Long Johns, Ajwa didn't know what to make of them. However, he did not completely believe it. Because it was just too ridiculous. Although he was now wearing 5 layers of Long Johns and looked fatter, Josie found it miraculous that he didn't feel uncomfortable at all. These Long Johns seemed to be able to fit the human body, and also had a temperature control system that could adjust the human body's temperature to the most appropriate state. Such comfortable Long Johns were soft and intimate, and didn't look hard at all. How could they withstand a fierce attack? This didn't make any sense at all. AI, when it comes in handy later, you'll know how strong these things are, Ajwa said. After all, this enchanted Long Johns version 3.0 was Wang Ling's handiwork. Who would have thought that enchanted Long Johns would be more than 10 times more powerful than the chaos armor worn by Dao ancestor Wang's Dharma characteristic creature, Du? But now, these 5 Long Johns were stacked together like a doll. Although they made Josie look like a slightly bloated Michelin tire, Josie's armor was now fully stacked. No one could hurt him. He wasn't in a hurry. In fact, he had brought Josie here this time to find an opportunity to help him soar. It was true that this heartless patriarch was an ancient expert. But if Josie could get rid of this 10,000 ancient rank powerhouse, he felt that he was more than qualified to join his sect. He had won without doing anything for so long, and was well versed in the art of winning without doing anything. It was just that he never thought that there would actually be a day when he would bring along the disciple he wanted to take in and set up a winning scheme for his future disciple. He casually picked up 2 mechanical limbs from the mountain of garbage and used the King's Eye's recovery ability to scan them. Then, Josie saw the 2 mechanical limbs actually turn into golden particles of light in his hands, which formed a holographic image in the air and then swiftly materialized. This was the King's Eye's Light of Repair, Home Appliance Edition, which was specially used to repair mechanical products. He had just wanted to give it a try, and never thought that it would actually come in handy. In less than 2 seconds, 2 brand new mechanical limbs appeared in Ajwa's hands. At that moment, both of them exclaimed in their hearts. Ajwa exclaimed in his heart, so this is what a complete mechanical arm looks like. Josie exclaimed in his heart, there's actually this kind of operation. Sensing Josie's astonished gaze, Ajwa couldn't help laughing. Don't be too surprised, it's just an ordinary technique. After sorting out his thoughts, Josie said, Brother Joie, since these are all semi-mechanical cultivators, shouldn't we also switch to mechanical limbs? Ajwa nodded. Smart. But given your current realm, you don't have enough spirit energy to use the disintegration spell to replace your limbs. Even if you learn this spell, I'm afraid it won't last more than 10 seconds. Then, what should we do? It's very simple. Just use an illusion spell. The next second, Ajwa used the shared King's Eye ability to project the 2 mechanical arms that he had just restored onto himself and Josie in the form of an illusion spell. When Josie saw that his right hand had suddenly turned into a metal mechanical arm, he was completely taken aback. Amazing. It's like I've changed into a new layer of skin. That's foolproof. Ajwa cupped his chin and said, but this illusory realm is already another country. I'm guessing that the currency used here is different from what we usually use. Unlike other secret realms, this secret realm had these mechanical native cultivators and its own civilization. Wherever there were people, there would definitely be all kinds of sales and transactions. Furthermore, through the holographic image sent back by the King's Eye, Ajwa could also see the dazzling central core area. So the crux of the problem was how to enter this place as legal natives without alerting the enemy. Ajwa judged that if they wanted to move around here unimpeded, they would need to have enough money. Thus, at that very moment, facing this huge and sparsely populated parts junkyard in front of him, Ajwa discovered an opportunity to strike it rich. Z, go pick up some parts that look like they can still be used, Ajwa said. He had the ocular technique of repairing light. Home Appliance Edition, so he could turn waste into treasure and sell it for a profit. Okay. Josie understood tacitly and could almost immediately guess what Ajwa wanted to do. But just as Zhou Zi was about to act, a tall, fair-skinned young man suddenly appeared in front of them. He was dressed in casual clothes and had neat bangs. As he approached them, it was as if they could feel the sunlight radiating from him. "Brother, you don't seem to be from here." Audua frowned. "Me? Indeed not, but neither are you." The young man smiled. "Who are you?" Audua's eyes darkened. This unknown young man could actually see through the king's eyes illusion spell? This was inconceivable to him. Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop on you. I also accidentally fell into this secret realm." At that moment, the young man raised his hands lazily in a gesture of surrender. So he had eavesdropped. Audua breathed a sigh of relief. "So I just want to ask, where on earth is this place? I heard you say that it's a secret realm? Have you heard of Beiyan City?" "I'm from there," the young man said. "Beiyan?" Audua was blank. Then he looked up at the person in front of him. "As far as I know, our Wuxia nation doesn't have a city called Beiyan." "Wuxia nation?" Hearing this, the young man was blank. He rubbed his chin with a thoughtful expression and couldn't help muttering, "Oh no, did I fall into another space?" "Brother, aren't you going to tell me who you are?" "It feels very rude," Audua said warily. He felt that there was something indescribably strange about the young man in front of him. And most importantly, the other party's battle strength wasn't ordinary. The young man hadn't deliberately released his spirit power. But through the king's eye, Audua could clearly see that the spirit power in this young man's body was as boundless as the sea. It was almost on par with a Tao god. "Then in exchange, after I'm done, I hope you can tell me who you are." The young man smiled warmly and then held out his hand to Audua. Hearing Zhou Zi call Audua Brother Zhua earlier, he also said, "Hello Brother Zhua, my name is Qin Zong." Qin as in Chu Tian, Zong as in vertical and horizontal. Zong? Audua was stunned by the name. Somehow he felt that he had heard it somewhere before. At that moment, Audua still hadn't realized it. This handshake was a historic meeting. Chapter 1645. The shared version of the king's eye had a lot of abilities, but at the same time, it also had limited permissions. Audua actually didn't have access to quite a few of the heaven-defying abilities. It wasn't that he was stingy, but that once these abilities were abused or used improperly, they could have a very serious butterfly effect. On the other hand, Audua actually hadn't reached the level of spirit power required to activate these heaven-defying abilities. He looked at the young man in front of him and felt like he had heard this name before, but he could not quite put his finger on it. Zhou Zi stared at Qin Zong. Although he felt that Qin Zong's sudden appearance was suspicious, he didn't know why he felt that Qin Zong looked especially familiar. "What do you think? Do you want to cooperate? From the looks of it, you're planning to sell these wastes, right?" Actually, Qin Zong had seen pretty much everything that had happened just now. He knew that Audua had the ability to turn trash into treasure, so he immediately offered to cooperate. "That depends on how you can help," said Audua. "Tisich, I'm just here to join in the fun. If I can help you, I hope you can help me think of a way to let me go home," Qin Zong replied. It was Qin Zong's first time encountering a space-time disorder after falling into a space-time turbulence. He could basically determine that he had fallen into another space. This was a big problem. With his current realm and strength, he was still unable to correct space-time. Of course, he didn't know whether Audua could help him. However, based on past experience, Lin Feng was not a match for Lin Feng. He felt that following Audua was definitely the right choice, because he was lucky enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't have heard Audua and Zhou Zi discussing a plan in this deserted waste yard as soon as he had fallen out of the space, and he found that he could be of use. "Cooperation? After all, we don't know you. I think we should consider it," Audua said. He did not reject Qin Zong too much. It was just that he was too unfamiliar with Qin Zong. He did not know what Qin Zong's purpose for appearing here was. Also, if Qin Zong were to join, it might affect Zhou Zi's contribution. While he was thinking, Qin Zong crossed his arms and burst out laughing. "I'm not a bad guy. If you're worried that I'll steal the credit, you don't have to worry. I'm the best at providing support." It wasn't that Qin Zong had used some mind-reading ability, but that he had made a mental guess purely by analyzing the micro-expressions on Audua's face, and then hit the nail on the head by a fluke. Audua pursed his lips. "It's not impossible for you to cooperate, but you have to follow my plan. Of course, I'll listen to you." Qin Zong nodded. "Then you and Z can go pick up scrap," Audua ordered. Audua hadn't expected a Tao God cultivator to go pick up trash. He thought Qin Zong would be angry, but in the end Qin Zong seemed to be in an unusually good mood. He did not look like he was picking up trash at all. Instead he looked like he was looking for treasure. Audiobook was shocked again. He suddenly regretted agreeing to join Qin Zong. Why did he feel like he had dragged a lunatic onto the boat? About a quarter of an hour later, Zhou Zi and Qin Zong returned at the same time. Master, the storage bag is basically full. It looks like it can be used, Zhou Zi said. Basically, he picked up the severed limbs that looked new and didn't have much dust on them. In total he picked up 100 storage bags and they were full. After that he looked at Qin Zong. Then, brother Qin Zong, how much did you pick up? With a smile on his face, Qin Zong fished out a gray item from his storage pouch. It was giving off a foul smell of engine oil. It looked like a lotus root that had just been unearthed from the mud. Ah, can this be sold for money? Zhou Zi said doubtfully. Qin Zong was very confident in himself, and the smile on his face didn't fade. You'll know when it's repaired. After a while, the three of them took the mechanical arm that Audiobook had repaired with Repair Light, home appliances addition to a shop that sold and recycled mechanical limbs. Qin Zong glanced at the name of the shop, Boss Pigeon Mechanical Limb Shop, and suddenly felt all sorts of emotions welling up in his heart. As soon as they entered the shop, the chubby shop owner was counting the money in the cabinets and seemed to be muttering something incessantly. He stared at the account book, puzzled no matter how hard he thought about it, and looked distressed. I clearly sold 2,000 yuan worth of goods just now. Why hasn't the cash in this cabinet changed? Did I not learn functions well enough? My maths teacher is clearly still in good health. Boss, do you want to recycle the mechanical arms? Audiobook asked at that moment. The chubby shop owner immediately put down what he was doing, and a smile reappeared on his fierce-looking face. What do the three of you want to sell? Audiobook handed over Zhou Zi's storage bag first. These are 100 mechanical arms of different models. Boss, please appraise them. I hope you can give me a suitable price. If you want to sell them as a package, there's no harm in selling them at a lower price. He had the air of an old man, and didn't have the slightest bit of the guilty conscience of an outsider. The chubby shop owner was blank for a moment, then turned around and poured the mechanical arms and the storage bag into the huge cylindrical machine behind him. Bzzz. After the red beam of light scanned for more than 10 seconds, the 100 mechanical arms formed a long list, which was pulled out from the spit at the bottom. As I expected, they're all old models. The chubby shop owner sighed and showed the list to Audiobook. Sir, look, my machine is connected to the internet. Almost 99% of all models of mechanical arms have them, and you'll see them after a scan. He went on and on. The specific model, the year of production, the manufacturer, the price at the time of production, and the current market price. Although this batch of mechanical arms looks especially new, as if they've never been used before, they're only slightly higher than the normal recycling price. For 100 of them, I'll give you 5,000 silver gear coins at most. Only 5,000? Audiobook frowned. It looked like his plan to make a fortune by repairing broken mechanical arms was going to be a little fruitless. He roughly knew that the boss was exaggerating a little, but from a business point of view, there was nothing wrong with him being meticulous with his calculations. Normally, it would definitely be more than 5,000. Perhaps the boss had quoted a little lower, but Audiobook guessed that the difference was only a few thousand yuan. Was he short of a few thousand yuan? He was thinking of directly becoming a nouveau riche by selling mechanical arms here. No matter what, he had to earn 100 million first. So Audiobook couldn't be bothered to haggle, and directly agreed to sell the bag of mechanical arms. The boss straightaway took out 5 1,000 yuan banknotes from the cabinet and handed them to Audiobook. Silver gears were drawn on them, as well as a special anti-counterfeiting seal. The spirit power fluctuations told Audiobook that they weren't fake. Because the workmanship of a fake banknote couldn't be so complicated, and there was even a deliberate anti-counterfeiting seal. Thank you for your patronage. After accepting the sack of mechanical arms, the boss grinned from ear to ear. After selling the difference in price, he had a net profit of around 3,000 silver gear coins. Just then Audiobook said, "Wait, I have more mechanical arms here. Boss, can you see how much they're worth?" "There's more?" The boss's eyes lit up. "How many?" Audiobook stuck out one finger and said with a smile, "1." This was the one that Qin Zong had found, and he had just finished repairing it. Audiobook was a little surprised when he restored the mechanical arm that Qin Zong had dug out, because it was a mechanical arm made of bronze and looked very cumbersome. He didn't understand the value of mechanical arms, and as a pure layman, he also didn't believe that Qin Zong would. This bronze arm clearly didn't look very valuable, But Qin Zong had been brimming with confidence from the very beginning. "Boss, how much is it?" Qin Zong's smile was still as bright as ever. In fact, when Ajwa flashed the bronze arm, the look in the fat boss's eyes instantly changed. Unlike when he had poured the storage bag's worth of mechanical arms into the cylindrical scanner earlier, he took out a single-sided magnifying glass and a strong flashlight from his small drawer, and carefully examined the entire bronze arm. The whole shop was silent for several minutes. The fat boss suddenly cried out in surprise, "That's great! Barassi! How could this thing be here?" "Ajwa and Josie?" "Ajwa, boss, why didn't you put it in the machine to be identified?" The fat boss, "Bronze arms are very rare to begin with. Just like I said before, the back-end library can't scan 1% of the model number." "Josie, is it because the workmanship is very exquisite?" The fat boss shook his head and exclaimed, "No. Rather than the workmanship, it's better to talk about its collectible value." After saying that, the fat boss instantly realized that things weren't looking good. He had wanted to pretend to be calm and trick this bronze arm out of Ajwa's hands. But after seeing this mechanical arm, he really couldn't restrain his excitement. "If my eyes aren't wrong, this should be the Bdwin 46 Royal Deluxe Limited Edition mechanical arm produced by CJG's Mechanical Arm Factory 1,000 years ago," he said excitedly. "Look, this mechanical arm. It's also engraved with the signatures and seals of over 100 clan heads in the core area. It's carved in small letters. You can only see it clearly with a magnifying glass. After 1,000 years, I'm afraid it's hard to estimate the value of this bronze arm." Brother Qin Zong is so strong. Ajwa and Josie were completely dumbfounded. What the F *** K, they had dug up a limited edition. "So, boss, you can't make a deal?" Qin Zong asked at that moment. "AI, to be honest, it's not that I don't want to buy it. It's that apart from the nouveau riche families in the core area, I'm afraid no shop in the outer ring can buy this bronze arm." The fat boss smiled helplessly and spread his hands. "We're just poor people. If it doesn't work, the three of you can give it a try." Qin Zong cupped his chin and pondered for a moment. If it was really as the boss said, that this bronze arm could only be recycled in the core area, then it was the same as falling into an endless loop. The purpose of the three of them making money was to use the power of money to buy legal identities from the outer slums and sneak into the depths. Ajwa and Josie were silent. They both had a tacit understanding to see what Qin Zong would choose. At that moment, after thinking for a while, Qin Zong raised his head again. He had a disappointed look on his face, and there was no trace of it being an act at all. "AI, so this treasure is going to fall into my hands?" The fat boss smiled inwardly. He knew that his chance had come. "Actually, if you're willing to sell it, it's not that I can't buy it, but I've already reminded you in advance that given the value of this treasure, it's not worth it to sell it here. Our recycling price is definitely far lower than in the core area." "Then how much can the core area open?" "For them, I think they'll have to give at least 1 million. 1 million silver gear coins?" asked Josie. "No, 1 million gold gear coins. Based on a 100 conversion, it's equivalent to 100 million silver gear coins," said the fat boss. "Then how much can you give?" asked Qin Zong. "I can probably give at most 100,000, and it's silver gear coins," said the fat boss as he scratched his head. "That's a little big indeed." Qin Zong laughed. "How about this, boss? If you're willing to accept it, I can sell it to you. We've been short on money recently." The fat boss was immediately stupefied and simply couldn't believe his ears. "What? You're willing to sell it to me? But you also know that 100,000 silver gear coins is definitely a small amount. Apart from money, I think you should also give us some subsidies. What do you say?" Qin Zong narrowed his eyes and smiled. "This?" The fat boss thought for a bit, then said, "How about this? If you're willing to sell it to me, I'll give you the tickets to tonight's underground boxing competition. I've received reliable information tonight that the favorite to win the championship, Jian Xiaochang, is up against that Master Niu Baogua. Tonight, I've received reliable news that one of the favorites for the championship, Jian Xiaochang, is going up against Master Niu Baogua. Grandmaster Niu Baogua will win. If you win, according to the odds, you can get 1 million silver gear coins in one go." "Absolute victory?" Qin Zong smiled. "The match hasn't started yet. I don't believe in rumors." At this time, the fat boss gritted his teeth and decided to use a method that looked like a gamble, but was actually the most profitable for him. "How about this? I'll give you 50 lottery chances for free. As you can see, although my shop isn't big, I do have top-notch goods." Whether or not you can get it depends on your luck. As he spoke, he pressed the button on the counter and sealed the door of the shop on the spot. Accompanied by the sound of gears turning, the hidden mechanism display cabinet inside the shop was revealed in front of everyone. This was his collection of mechanical arms, and there were more than 100 of them. These are my trump cards. I don't usually show them to the public. He pointed at his hidden display case and said, "The second to last floor above us is Section S. Most of them were just recently eliminated from the core zone, but they sell for an average of 100,000 silver gear coins here. The next box is Section S, which sells for an average of 50,000 silver gear coins. Section A sells for an average of 10,000 silver gear coins. The rest are B goods worth a few thousand silver coins and C goods worth only a few hundred silver coins." After saying that, the fat boss turned around and carefully picked up the bronze arm from the cabinet and put it on top of the display cabinet. "All these years I've always wondered if there were any SSR grade goods. Josie and Josie. So, boss, what do you mean?" "A lottery. As long as you're willing to sell me this bronze arm, I'll let you draw all the mechanical arms in my shop, including the one you sold me." The fat boss said excitedly, "There are a lot of small iron balls in that cradle over there. Black is C, gray is B, silver is A, gold is S, purple and gold is SS, and the ones that represent SSR are jade balls." "I see." Qin Zong nodded thoughtfully. "How about it? Do you dare make a bet with me? If you're fated with this bronze arm, you might be able to draw it back." The fat boss continued to tease Qin Zong into participating in this bet. He looked full of confidence, almost certain that Qin Zong wouldn't be able to draw it if he got carried away. The shop's lottery routine had always been the same. The prizes were very tempting, but the chances were minuscule. There were 100,000 small balls in his cradle. According to the ratio, most of the balls were gray and black, while there were only 100 silver balls representing A and gold balls representing S, and 10 purple and gold balls representing SS. Of course, the most outrageous was the SSR jade ball that the boss had just decided on a whim. There was only one in 100,000 balls. As he spoke, he deliberately opened the cradle and showed the key jade ball to Qin Zong, Zhou Zi and Qin Zong, then added 2 more into the cradle. "I'll add 2 more for you. Good enough, right?" "Excuse me, boss, is there no other alternative? Do I really want to draw a lottery?" Qin Zong asked repeatedly to confirm. "No. I'm poor, so I can only bet on luck." The fat boss laughed. "If you don't sell it, I'll go to another shop and they'll probably let you draw a lottery." "Oh, okay. I'll draw." Qin Zong laughed. The fat boss was delighted. "You mean?" Qin Zong nodded. "Yes, I'll sell this bronze arm to you. But if I draw something good, don't go back on your word, boss." The fat boss smiled slyly. "Don't worry, we're all serious businessmen." As soon as he said that, the two of them sneered in their hearts at the same time. Qin Zong, "Ha, this fool." The fat boss, "Ha, this fool. With a probability of 3 in 100,000, I'll let you draw 50 times. Can you kill me instantly?" Chapter 1646. In less than 10 minutes, the three of them had already left Boss Pigeon's shop, fully loaded. The fat boss stood at the door and stared with a dumbfounded expression, feeling like a soulless walking corpse. His shop was completely empty. Qin Zong had taken away everything of value, including the bronze arm which Qin Zong had just sold to Boss Pigeon. The estimated value of this loss had already exceeded 1,000,000 silver gear coins. He had lost so much that he had to go back to his grandmother's house. "Josie, brother Qin Zong, you're amazing, you're actually the first to get a jade ball. Aren't you a little too lucky?" "Maybe it's not that I'm lucky, but maybe you're the luckier one, Z. I picked up the bronze arm with you just now after picking up the trash," Qin Zong said very modestly. Actually, he didn't want to go overboard. But who told this boss to compete in the lottery with him in order to scam him out of the bronze arm? When he had drawn the lottery, he had watched the boss's face turn livid little by little. Out of concern for the boss's health, he had straightaway let go and let Josie and Ajwa help him draw a few more rounds. But unfortunately, his providence radiation was too strong, and it directly caused Josie and Ajwa's luck to be extremely good. The three of them took turns and won one item after another. Nearly 99% of the gray and black balls were drawn, but they didn't win a single one out of 50 times. The mechanism of providence radiation had started a long time ago. As the one and only koi in the cultivation world, Qin Zong's passive ability had already reached the level of precise radiation after constant cultivation. That was to say, as long as Qin Zong subconsciously listed someone as an enemy, Even if he was present, the Providence radiation wouldn't reach that person. Hence Boss Pigeon was out of luck. But this also reminded Qinzong of something else. That was, he now indeed regarded Ajua and Zhou Zi as his teammates. Strange, it's clearly the first time we've met, but why does it feel so familiar? Qinzong murmured in his heart. He had also noticed this problem. He felt that there seemed to be some kind of hidden tacit understanding between him, Ajua and Zhou Zi. This sort of tacit understanding was very wonderful, especially between him and Ajua. Both of them had this feeling, but they couldn't quite put their finger on it. It was clearly his first time meeting Qinzong, but he had directly agreed to work with this stranger. This was definitely not his style. Given Ajua's usual strict attitude, it wasn't his style at all. Unfortunately, this time it was a special case. Because he felt that Qinzong was inexplicably familiar, and there was an indescribable sense of intimacy. However, he didn't show it. He still had a cautious look on his face, but he had already let down his guard a little. Let me do some calculations. If we can win tonight's underground fight, we'll have at least 3 million silver gear coins as our starting capital. If we can enter the core area and sell this bronze arm, we can directly become the landlord, Qinzong said with a smile. SOSO. Ajua nodded indifferently. In fact, he was lucky enough to discover this problem as well. Despite Qinzong's excuse that it was Zhou Zi's good luck, the change in his luck was obvious. Ajua knew that he had never been a king of luck. Although his current career path wasn't bad, he couldn't be called a true king of luck if he was lucky once in a while. A true king of luck was the kind of person who had especially good luck no matter what they did. Last night he had spent 648 on 3 orders, but in the end he had only gotten 3 guarantees. How could he be called a king of luck? As for Zhou Zi, there was no need to even mention him. It was obvious that he hadn't been born with extremely good luck, otherwise his leg wouldn't have been so tragically amputated when he was young. So based on Ajua's judgment, the real problem probably lay with Qinzong. This person, his luck is really a little strangely good. Ajua sighed sadly in his heart, but he didn't show it and decided to keep observing him. Brother Zhua, I thought we were already in the same boat after what happened just now. But why are you so hostile towards me? Is it because I didn't do well? Jim? Qinzong folded his arms and looked at Ajua with a gentle smile. The average girl wouldn't be able to withstand this star face, which looked like a protagonist's smile. Ajua couldn't help but be glad that he hadn't brought Kyuko Ryoko along. Maybe his wife would have been abducted. Don't think that we're already friends, it's just a purely cooperative relationship. Ajua's voice was cold and his face was devoid of emotion. He looked angry, but in fact he wasn't, and his heart was even a little calm. In the end, as soon as he showed this attitude, Qinzong suddenly laughed. I say, Brother Zhuo, don't tell me you're at Sundara? Ajua's eyes widened and his face was filled with horror. Nonsense. I don't know what you're talking about. Hearing this, Zhou Zi couldn't help laughing. In fact, he also felt that it was a little. After all, he had lived with Ajua for a while and knew very well that he wasn't a tough person, so it was very unnatural for him to suddenly become tough. Of course, given Zhou Zi's clever little brain, how could he not have guessed that Ajua's cold attitude towards Qinzong was actually still out of vigilance? But Ajua's current double talk reminded him of his Shifu Ryoko. He couldn't help exclaiming in his heart, "Teske," as expected of a couple. After living together for a period of time, even their personalities had become the same. On the side, Ajua saw Zhou Zi snickering. Qinzong knew that he had probably guessed right again with his nonsense. Then he curled his lips. Let's go, I won't talk about this anymore. It'll hurt our friendship. I'll treat you to a drink. He then stretched out his hand to push Ajua and Zhou Zi's backs, leading them down a path. Ajua, do you know the way? Don't walk blindly, Qinzong laughed. I don't know, but it's definitely this way. Ajua, this kind of self-confidence again, and now it seemed that Ajua was starting to understand Qinzong's self-confidence a little. It was possible that this guy also knew that he was a very lucky person. A Providence cultivator? Was there such a person in the world? Ajua was dumbfounded. After pushing Ajua and Zhou Zi for a few steps, a very shabby-looking snack bar actually appeared in their line of sight, and the drinks on sale were ones the three of them had never seen before. Although the drinks were different, the types were more or less the same, and even the style of marketing activities was similar to that of the outside world. Young man, what do you want to drink? There's been a soda promotion recently. Then let's buy a bottle of soda. Qinzong nodded, then pointed to a drink that looked very much like Fat Otaku Cola. Ajua laughed. Aren't you going to treat us? Shouldn't you be spending your own money? Qin Zong nodded. Of course, I'm a man of my word. He then unscrewed the cap of the bottle in front of the boss. The boss pushed up his glasses and squinted to see the words under the cap. One more bottle. Seeing this, the boss also laughed and took the cap. Forget it, young man, you're lucky. You don't have to pay, this bottle is for you. Qin Zong nodded in satisfaction at the expected situation. Then he reached out and casually took 2 more bottles of soda from the shelf. The boss, you have to pay me 2 silver gear coins, young man. Qin Zong smiled, then unscrewed the caps of these 2 bottles of soda and gave them to the boss. Another 2, 1 more bottle, this? The boss had an incredulous expression on his face. The probability of this 1 more bottle activity was clearly only 1%. But there were actually 3 bottles in a row? Thank you, boss, I wish you a prosperous business. Qin Zong thanked the boss politely. Then he opened the bottle cap and handed it to Zhou Zi and Ajua, fulfilling his promise. Ajua took a sip and savored it carefully. The soda in the slums of the technology city was actually orange-flavored, and he could actually taste like his childhood. He looked at Qin Zong and asked with a smile, "Do you often skip orders like this?" Qin Zong shrugged. "Brother Zhua, you call this skipping orders? I was just a little lucky, that's all." He knew that what he was doing was actually a little unkind, so he gave the boss his blessings before he left. Based on his blessings, the boss of this snack shop should be able to continue breaking records in the next few years. Ajua, I can see your ability, you were lucky. But why didn't you unscrew the cap after paying? It's very inconvenient to drink without a cap like this. Qin Zong, on one hand, didn't you say that you wouldn't spend our money and wanted me to treat myself? Of course this is the best way. On the other hand, directly opening the cap is actually for the boss's own good. Ajua and Zhou Zi? Qin Zong sighed. Have you ever experienced what it's like to empty out a supermarket with the money for a bottle of soda? Ajua and Zhou Zi, are we going to the boxing arena next? Qin Zong nodded and smiled brightly. Of course. This is a chance to turn over the money we have in our hands. Ajua secretly rolled his eyes in his heart. He thought to himself, who's with you? Just as the 3 of them were about to head to the underground boxing arena, not far away from them, 3 cloaked figures appeared and one of them was trembling slightly under the cloak. I knew it. Jaimiya Ryoko hadn't expected it. She had just found Ajua when she saw the scene of the 3 people buying drinks from afar. But she wasn't in a hurry to reunite with them. Instead, she chose to follow them secretly. In the end, she saw the scene just now. The pretty boy who had just appeared next to Ajua had a dubious tone as he kept saying, our money, and the money we have, which made Jaimiya Ryoko feel unwell. Ryoko, calm down, it might not be what you think. Lotus Sun dropped her forehead into her hand. We agreed that we would only bring Z over. It's one thing for him to bring Z, but why is there another man next to him? It was clear that Jaimiya Ryoko was very angry now. It's just a man, you don't understand, Rongrong? We girls are actually under a lot of pressure. It's not enough to just guard against women. You have to raise your awareness. Tell me, do you think a normal man would unscrew a bottle cap for another man? Ajua isn't a girl, why would he do it for him? Doesn't he have his own hands? Jaimiya Ryoko said angrily, and that person just now seemed to have said, our money? What, our money? This Ajua actually dated a 3rd man outside and didn't tell me. He's even hiding a little stash of money. If he was short of money, he could have asked me. He could have asked for as much as he wanted. It's not like I don't have. Ryoko, calm down first. Lotus Sun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She felt that Jaimiya Ryoko was really too sensitive. Senior Golden Lamp, please help persuade him. Under the cloak, the monk's voice was cold. Monks have long since seen through the world of mortals. Please forgive this poor monk for not being able to understand the love and affection of the secular world. Hearing this, Lotus Sun could only sigh and look at Jaimiya Ryoko to comfort her. Ryoko, don't worry. It's all on your own now. We don't know the specifics yet. I think they were talking about some boxing match just now. Do you want to go and have a look? That's fine. Jaimiya Ryoko nodded. But the currency in this world is a little different from ours. It doesn't seem like we can do without money. We can't enter that kind of place without money, right? Let me think. Lotus Sun was also having a headache in this regard. In fact, she had been thinking about legal ways to make quick money in this world in a short period of time ever since she entered the land of nothingness and discovered that the currency wasn't usable. Just then, Monk Golden Lamp suddenly said, "Look, someone seems to be putting up a notice over there." Lotus Sun frowned. "It looks like a wanted poster?" "Wanted poster? Speaking of which, if it's a wanted poster there should be a bounty, right?" Jayamiya Ryoko's eyes lit up. With a wave of excitement, the three of them gathered in front of the wanted poster and began to look at it carefully. According to the wanted poster by the police in the technology city, it was a pair of middle-aged men swindling people. They had swindled a shop owner out of 2,000 silver gear coins. But at present, there were only sketches provided according to the victim's description. Since the sketches couldn't be identified through the database, it was suspected that they were unregistered residents or had disguised their faces. Anyone who could provide specific information or clues would be rewarded with 20,000 silver gear coins. P.S. Please help me boost my sales at the end of the year. As Jayamiya Ryoko looked at it, she suddenly felt that the two sketches looked a little familiar. Wrong, don't you think these two people look a little familiar? Lotus Sun was instantly clear-headed by these words, as if enlightened with wisdom. She was horrified. Wasn't it just a little familiar? This was Li Xian and Zhang Ziki stealing. Chapter 1647. Although Kamiya Ryoko really didn't want to admit it, she indeed felt a little irrational at that moment. When she thought about Ajwa, she felt like she couldn't think straight anymore. When they arrived at the nearest police station, the three of them stopped in front of it. By establishing a group chat window, Lotus Sun and Kamiya Ryoko realized the telepathic communication between the two girls, ensuring that unrelated people wouldn't hear them. Lotus Sun: "Yoshiko, do you really want to go in and report Senior Li Xian and Senior Zhang Zipi?" Ryoko sighed. "I actually don't want to, especially Senior Li Xian, who is the benefactor of our Ryoko family. However, these are extraordinary times." "But have you ever thought about it? Even if we sell out the two seniors, we'll still have to pay the price. With just a few tens of thousands of yuan, I'm afraid the people in this underground boxing arena wouldn't even take a look at it." Under her cloak, Lotus Sun had a helpless expression on her face. Although she didn't understand the rules of the underground boxing arena, however, based on her basic understanding of the circle of the rich and powerful, such a place was opened underground because it could not be brought to the public, and the entry requirements were also very harsh. Otherwise, if he was especially rich, he might be able to make an exception. Just like that, the scene fell into silence again. About a few minutes later, outside the police station, there were two AI service robot police officers carrying a man covered in blood out of an off-road police car on a stretcher. The man's body was covered in blood-stained bandages. His entire right arm had been severed, revealing the wiring inside. It was still emitting a sizzling sound and sparks. Inside the police station, a middle-aged man with a big belly and wearing a coffee-colored windbreaker walked out with a cigar in his mouth. His lower body was very strange. He didn't have legs but two treads. He looked very much like a human-shaped tank. As soon as the man appeared, the intelligent mechanical police officers in the car saluted him. "Chief Daikas." The middle-aged man waved his hand and puffed out a mouthful of smoke. He looked at the man under his eyes with a slightly resentful expression. "How many rounds did he last?" "He made it to the 4th round. Unfortunately, he didn't make it," the robot police replied. Their voices had a kind of electronic sound effect. When they spoke, it felt very comical. However, in the face of a reply, their reaction speed was very shocking. It was as if they were real people. "What a pity. Just one more round and he would be able to enter. I'm afraid I can't stay in this restaurant anymore. It's boring." Amidst the middle-aged man's sigh, the buzzing sound of the person on the stretcher disappeared just like that. He had completely breathed his last. On the side, Lotus Sun and Kamiya Ryoko felt uncomfortable watching this. Mysterious C's healing sword chi was only effective on humans, and there was nothing Lotus Sun could do about a cyborg whose body was half mechanical. "Why don't you send him to the clinic first? The doctors at the scene have determined that there is no hope. There is a shortage of spare parts in the clinic. If we can't cure him, it will take up resources." "How pitiful," the middle-aged man said. "Forget it, just send him home. Also, you must pay the compensation as stated in the contract." "Understood, Director." Then 2 robot police officers carried a stretcher and put the poor dead man back into the car. Watching the police car leave, the middle-aged man called Daikas suddenly turned to look at Lotus Sun and the other 2. "Are you 3 also here to be my fighters? What, are you so scared that you can't speak after seeing a dead person?" He laughed. "I'm joking, I don't expect 2 girls to fight for me." The little brother next to them looked soft and tender, and doesn't look like he's a martial artist. The three of you are brother and sister? Kuya Ryoko awkwardly denied it. Not siblings. I'm just curious about the boxing field. I remember that Mr. Jian Xiaoqiang and Mr. Niu Baogua are going to fight tonight, right? The semifinals are over, right? She tried to worm information out of him. Unexpectedly, not only did this man called Daikas not find it troublesome, he even thought it was interesting for a girl to ask about such things. He took a puff on his cigar and said slowly, "You women don't understand the fun of the rich and powerful. Before the finals there is a dojo challenge. You have to challenge a total of 5 rounds to qualify, and then you have to fight last year's dojo challenge champion to warm up before the match. Even the finals aren't as good as this. Because it's a fight for life. Between the two of them one has to die. That person just now signed a life and death contract with me and was sent over. That person is doing it for his family? In a slum like this, of course it's for his livelihood. If he hadn't stood up to fight for me, I'm afraid he wouldn't have been able to pay off the debt his family owes." Daikas smiled mockingly. "But it's a pity that he's already at the 4th round. If he could break through the 5th round and challenge last year's dojo challenge champion, he would get a full 6 million. He would be able to jump out of this slum in one fell swoop." 6 million? Silver gear coins? No, gold gear coins. Daikas's voice grew louder. "And it's not just 6 million. There's also a pass to the core area. I made an agreement with that man just now that I'll provide the registration funds and the entire fee. He'll fight for me, and if he wins he'll get 3 million. The remaining 3 million and the pass are mine." "I see." Lotus Sun and Kuya Ryoko nodded. They had a general idea of the situation. And judging from the director's description, this person wasn't too bad. At least he kept his promise with the man on the stretcher. So, the finals are just for the fun of betting among the poor. The Dojo Challenge champion is the most exciting. But last year's Dojo Challenge champion was very strong. I think he's going to make a meteoric rise this year. Because so far no one has passed the 5th round. If no one is his opponent, he'll have to enter the core area lying down. Then who was last year's Dojo Challenge champion? Lotus Sun asked. In fact, last year's Dojo Challenge champion was Mr. Niu Baogua's master, Hu Baogua. Last year, not only did he single-handedly challenge the 5 pass lords arranged by the bigwigs, he also used only one move to kill the Dojo Challenge champion the year before last. One move? Yes. One move. It said that when he used it, he was so fast that people couldn't see his movements. By the time they reacted, he'd already hit the ground. Those who saw it at the scene only saw a flash of lightning and thunder. And this move was also called by him Lightning 5 consecutive whips. The more Dekars spoke, the more agitated he became. The veins on his forehead bulged, and he had to rub his twitching temples. "I'm sorry, I was too agitated and talked too much to you girls. Mr. Director, can I give it a try?" Just then Ryoko Kyuko took the initiative to step forward. Lotus Sun and the monk's eyelids twitched when they heard her request to fight. They hadn't expected Ryoko to do this at all. Of course, Ryoko wasn't just throwing her life away. She had just estimated the realm of that seriously injured man, and felt that he was at the peak late golden core stage. With the ghost talisman on her, she might be qualified to challenge him on her own. At the very least, there was Monk Golden Lamp to vouch for her, so it was very safe. "You." Daikas laughed. "A woman shouldn't join in the fun, although you don't look like one." Blue veins popped out on Ryoko's forehead. "What do you mean?" Daikas chuckled. "Of course I'm talking about your chest. It's so flat that you're hardly a woman. Don't even think about the dojo challenge." As soon as he said this, he suddenly felt a powerful wave of negative energy in front of him. Ryoko mobilized the power of the ghost talisman and smashed her fist heavily into the ground. In her mind she imagined Ojwa cheating on her, and with a man at that. Under this double fury, coupled with Daikas's precise lightning strike, Ryoko Kyuko instantly erupted with unparalleled destructive power. Boom. Ryoko smashed a 10-meter deep hole in the ground in front of the police HQ, and the nearby ground cracked as if there was an earthquake. Lotus Sun and Monk Golden Lamp sucked in breaths of cold air at this scene. A woman caught in the act of adultery was indeed terrifying, and the most horrified was naturally this director Daikas. After being stunned for less than 3 seconds, his face instantly lit up with delight. "Ha! Who would have thought? Even I, Daikas, would make a mistake one day. Miss, I'm sorry for my slip of the tongue just now. I shouldn't have looked down on you and even attacked you." Although, Dekars didn't think that Ryoko Kamiya would grow breasts. As a man who had seen countless people, he could basically understand this with just one look. Ryoko patted the dust off her hands and looked at Daika's. There's no need for a life and death contract. In any case, I'll definitely win. But after I win, the pass is yours. As for the prize, I want 5 million gold. Interesting. Daika's laughed. Then it's a deal. But there's still less than 5 hours before the finals, which means you'll have to challenge 5 levels in a row. But there's a problem. 5 levels plus the dojo challenge king from last year, right? Ryoko am not afraid at all. So your name is Ryoko. Daika's rolled his eyes. How about this, I'll get you a fake identity and you'll be called Ryoko. No one uses their real names in that underground boxing ring. They all use fake identities to go in. Then can you get one for my junior sister and junior brother? Ryoko Kyuko took the opportunity to ask. Oh, so the two behind you are your junior sister and junior brother? Got it. Since it's Ryoko, oh no, it's Miss Ryoko's request, I'll definitely do it. Wait for me here, I'll get someone to make new IDs right away. Daika's was so excited that he rushed into the station. Seeing him leave, Ryoko hurriedly looked back at Golden Lamp, and then at the monk with a pleading look. Senior, can you help me, enlighten me? Golden Lamp. He knew it would be like this. Chapter 1648. The entrance to the underground boxing arena in the slums of the Technology City was in a deep alley on 5th Ring Road. Deep in the alley was a sealed manhole cover, which was open to reveal the entrance. At the mouth of the alley were gun-wielding mechanical cultivators. These brawny men blocked the entrance tightly like a human wall, adding a layer of mystery to this restricted area. When Ajwa and the other two arrived, they were swept back and forth by these people's gazes. Ajwa shrank his neck back and had a faint sense of foreboding. It wasn't that he was afraid of these brawny men with big heads and thick necks, but inexplicably felt a strange coldness behind his back. And this wasn't the first time he had felt this coldness. It had actually been there ever since he had bought the drinks. Until now, when it had become more and more intense. After showing the ticket to the underground, one of the brawny men spoke in a gruff and low voice devoid of any emotion. One ticket can only allow 2 people in at most. Qin Zong was quick-witted. He took out a stack of silver gear coins and smiled, revealing his pearly white teeth. Big brother, how about you make an exception? I was also introduced here by a friend. I came here to play, I don't know if I can still buy more. The brawny man took the stack of notes and sniffed at the fragrance. This stack of silver gear coins amounted to 100,000, which was actually not a small sum for Ajwa and the others, who were in desperate need of funds. But Qin Zong was unusually generous, and the corners of his lips curled up. If this big brother doesn't mind, you can share the money with our brothers. The brawny man with the paralyzed face smiled coldly. At least you know your manners. Then come in. He then gave the other brawny men a look and they straightaway made way. So it's the boss here. Seeing this scene, Qin Zong knew what was going on. Just as the 3 of them entered the alley through the human wall, Ajwa noticed that the brawny man who had taken the money had followed them in and seemed to want to say something. Sir, is this your first time here? Yes, it's my first time, Qin Zong answered truthfully. The odds for the final are 1-6 and most people think that Jian Xiaochang will win. But there's no point in betting on the final. The brawny man said in a gruff voice, if this is your first time here, I suggest that you play a dojo challenge. The odds were 1-60. However, the entrance fee for this place is 1 million silver cog coins. Mister, you seem to be quite generous. Do you want to play something exciting? Qin Zong's eyes lit up. He had just tipped the burly man 100,000 yuan, so he had exactly 1 million yuan left. Following behind Qin Zong, Ajwa and Zhou Zi sighed in their hearts. All these coincidences were so natural. It was as if everything had been planned. Ajwa now realized that perhaps Qin Zong hadn't just been lucky. He might be the embodiment of luck, 60 times the odds. If he could win, they would get 60 million silver gear coins. Qin Zong's face was full of interest. Then how do we get in? The muscular man revealed an ugly smile and walked straight to the innermost part. He opened a manhole cover hidden under a blanket. Gentlemen, please enter from here. This is the VIP passage. I see. Thank you. Qin Zong nodded. You're welcome, sir. I wish you good fortune. After saying that, the brawny man watched Qin Zong and the other 2 go in with a smile on his face. Then he covered the manhole cover and carpet again. The underground boxing arena in the VIP area was a little different from what Ajwa and Qin Zong had imagined. These people were dressed in bright and beautiful clothes. Just from their appearance, they already looked like poor people. Audiobook frowned slightly. These people are from the core area, right? He could roughly guess a few things from the scene in front of him. The odds in the finals were only 1/6, so in the end, it was just the poor people's plate. While this dojo challenge was the real deal, where the rich and powerful looked for excitement. At the betting counter, a lot of people were discussing the dojo challenge. What a pity for that man earlier. He was already in the 4th round, but in the end he was violently beaten up and carried away. Only I, great general who, can win this dojo challenge. In my opinion, Treasure who will definitely win this year's dojo challenge. A middle-aged man with a big belly laughed fiercely. Holding a goblet, he spoke carelessly as he swirled the red wine in his hand. Don't celebrate too early, Boss Zhu. The competition isn't over yet. A rich lady with bright red lipstick smiled coldly. There's only 4 hours and 52 minutes until the betting deadline. I don't think it's possible to pass 5 rounds in a row and challenge last year's champion in less than 5 hours. The middle-aged man called Boss Zhu didn't hide his rampant laughter at all. He was a supporter of last year's dojo challenge champion, Hu Baogua. At that time last year, Hu Baogua had caught the eye of an ascender, who wanted to leave the slums, who had provided him with the starting funds to participate in the dojo challenge. This so-called ascender was the kind of person who had already accumulated a certain amount of money and wanted to escape poverty and move to the core area. 2 years before the dojo challenge, an ascender had come to participate on his own, but in the end he had died a violent death. Later, an ascender had come up with an idea. That was to sign a hired thug to participate in the competition on his behalf. After the competition, the ascender would get his pass, while the hired thug would get his own money. With this money, the hired thug would have the capital to continue participating in the competition the next year. Furthermore, he would become the 2nd year's arena master. The dojo challenge had been held for dozens of years now, and this was already an unwritten rule. Director Daikas, who was working with Ryoko Kamiya, was in fact one of the ascenders. These people were chatting animatedly. Ajwa, Qinzong and Zhou Zi also understood what was going on. That was to say, the new challenger had to first defeat the 5 past guardians chosen by the bigwigs. Only after succeeding in all the challenges would he be able to challenge last year's dojo challenge king. The most important thing was that these past guardians all had spare tires. Once they were injured, they would be replaced by a new person. That was to say, no matter who challenged them, the first 5 past guardians would always be at full HP and MP. It doesn't sound very easy. Do we really have to bet? Ajwa frowned. Even he felt that the rules were too harsh. There were already less than 5 hours left. They had to challenge 6 people in a row. Unless there was a huge disparity in strength, this was almost an impossible task. This Director Zhu was also well aware of this and he laughed again. As far as I know, the only one in the 10th ring who still has spare cash to sponsor the competition is that Director Daikas. However, it was a pity that the hired thug he had just sent was already dead. There are less than 5 hours left. It's not like he'll force a duck onto a perch and randomly grab someone on the road, right? As soon as the man finished speaking, a roar of laughter rang out in the hall. Qinzong ignored him and walked over to the betting counter. He took out the storage bag and asked, "Hello, can I still bet now?" "Of course, sir." The betting waitress gave a professional smile. "Please help me bet that this Mr. Hu Baogua loses." "Lose? Sir? I've checked, there are 1 million silver gear coins in your storage bag." After the waitress said this, a lot of eyes turned to Qinzong. Qinzong smiled slightly. "Please put me in." Chapter 1649. The voice was not loud, but it attracted the attention of the people around. There were less than 5 hours left, and the fighters that Director Dekars had signed were all dead. There was almost no one in the entire 10th ring who had extra money to fund the next match. Zhu Yuanrun was not wrong at all. He was a big shot in the circle of influential people in the core area, and he actually had some shares in this underground boxing ring. What Zhu Yuanrun did not expect was that someone would bet on Hu Baogua to lose after hearing his analysis. In his opinion, this was something that was impossible to accomplish. "Young man, you're quite impressive. You bet 1 million silver gear coins right off the bat. This is probably your life savings, right?" Zhu Yuanrun chuckled. Although he was a little annoyed that someone did not listen to his analysis at this point in time and forcefully went against his words. But in fact, Qinzong betting on Hu Baogua to lose was actually beneficial to him. Because he was the one who bet on winning. What he was profiting from was this steady business. After he was sure that no one could challenge Hu Baogua, he immediately increased the bet and raised the odds to the current one. 72, 60. Because of the huge capital, even if it was 172 times, it was still enough for him to make a lot of money. Qin Zong's bet only gave him 1 million more. He could not help but laugh in his heart. He would not be able to find a charity business like this that gave away money for free. In the end, just as he finished his sentence, the deafening sound of a gong rang out in the VIP area. Someone is beating the war drum. On the screen in the hall, a skinny cloaked man wearing a black cloak and a mask, accompanied by 2 other cloaked men wearing the same mask, and Dekars, who was grinning from ear to ear, appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Dekars? Why is it him again? Didn't his contracted fighters just... Zhu Yuanrun and the surrounding dignitaries opened their mouths wide at the same time, looking at this scene in disbelief. That Hu Baoguo was rumored to have unfathomable strength. Although the participant list said that he was at the peak of the late Golden Core stage, in reality, this realm was just fishing. This would cause people to mistakenly think that Hu Baoguo was very weak, and thus lower the overall standard of those hired thugs. After all, the signing fee of each thug was based on their realm. For example, the Golden Core stage fighter that Dekars hired previously was hired by him based on the data on the paper. This was Zhu Yuanruin's secret operation. However, he didn't expect that this person couldn't even pass the 4th round. In reality, Hu Baoguo was a soul formation stage cultivator. For a soul formation cultivator to appear in the slums, it was already shocking enough. On the other hand, the person that Dekars found was ridiculously skinny. In Zhu Yuanruin's opinion, it would be difficult for him to even pass the first 3 tests. This Dekars. Is there something wrong with his brain? Why did he find such a short and ugly man to compete with? When Zhu Yuanrun said this, Daikas entered the venue with Lotus Sun, Jiugong, and Jin Deng. As soon as she entered the venue, Ryoko Komiya heard Zhu Yuanruin's arrogant voice. Under the cloak, her body trembled slightly. This damn fatty actually said that she was... Calm down, Ryoko, you mustn't be exposed. Also, this Dekars did indeed label you as a boy on his fake identity. It's all for cover. Cover. On the side, Lotus Sun used team voice to remind her. Ryoko Komiya took a deep breath. In her heart, she repeatedly said things like, "The world is so beautiful, but I'm so irritable." The golden lamp's light blessing spell on them perfectly concealed their auras to ensure that Adjua and the others wouldn't discover them. Sharing the king's eye was indeed very powerful, but it was worlds apart from the real king's eye. As long as the light blessing spell was strong enough, it would be impossible for the king's eye's power to penetrate it. So now they were being blessed with version 4.0 of the golden lamp's light blessing spell. Although the effect was temporary, it greatly increased Ryoko Komiya's fighting strength. When they entered the hall, Lotus Sun had been worried that Adjua would see through them. After a brief exchange of glances, in the end, Adjua's gaze quickly shifted away from them. She couldn't help heaving a sigh of relief. That was close. Look, Rongrong, that person keeps looking at Adjua. He hasn't even stopped once. Ryoko Komiya was utterly exasperated with jealousy. In addition, Zhu Yuanrun had just said that she was a boy, and her anger had already reached a critical point. Dekars was fully in charge of the admission procedures for the dojo challenge, and it took less than 10 minutes for Ryoko Komiya to get her pass. When her name appeared on the big screen, everyone's eyes twitched. Komiya? Who was this person? A golden core hatchet man, and one that no one had ever heard of. Dekars, you're pushing this kid into a fire pit. Look at how skinny he is, he hasn't even fully developed yet, right? Why did you call a girl who hasn't even fully grown yet? Zhu Yuanrun had a teasing expression on his face. Pushing into a fire pit? What do you know? Dekars completely ignored what Zhu Yuanrun said. He had already seen how powerful Ryoko Komiya was, and naturally didn't care what others thought. Although Ryoko Komiya's asking price was indeed higher than that of the dead male hatchet man, his ultimate goal was the pass. As long as he could get the pass, everything would be worth it. Komiya, are you ready? Let's show them real magic. Dekars folded his arms and smiled confidently. Magic. In a sense, this could indeed be called magic. After the procedures were completed, there were only about 4 hours left. Zhu Yuanrun and his men were mocking them on the surface, but they were actually stalling for time. To challenge 6 people in a row in these 4 hours was simply unrealistic in the eyes of others. But when Ryoko Komiya walked into the boxing ring under everyone's gazes, Zhu Yuanrun still sensed that something was wrong. What's wrong, Boss Zhu? A manservant under Zhu Yuanrun came over and asked. When he saw Zhu Yuanrun raise his hand, he knew that the boss had something for him to arrange. Go and call the 5 strongest people that we specially prepared for the dojo challenge. They will be the 5 past masters of this dojo challenge. Is this necessary? I feel that something is wrong. Zhu Yuanrun frowned. He knew Dekar's the best. Under normal circumstances he wouldn't do useless things. Of course, the main reason was that the confidence on his face scared Zhu Yuanrun. About a few minutes later, the first past master that Ryoko Komiya would face had come to her. This was a man with 8 mechanical legs. People gave him the nickname, Yogurt. The first person is Crab? Zhu Yuanrun sneered. This person looks extremely clumsy, but he is extremely fast, extremely agile. And most importantly, these 2 iron gloves of his, they are the work of that lord. That lord? Yes. Although that lord is just a disciple, even if he is a disciple, these iron gloves are enough to be fatal. This is a fist that surpasses the fear of death. I see. It sounds very strong. And look at President Zhu, the man in front of him isn't wearing any gloves. Barehanded? He's courting death. A fist that surpasses the fear of death? Kamiya Ryoko was startled and immediately clenched her fists tightly. Indeed, she wasn't wearing anything, only 2 delicate, meaty fists. But after version 4.0 of the illumination spell, she had nothing to fear at the moment. That damn fat pig, he actually said that this lady is a man. Recalling what Zhu Yuanrun had just said, Ryoko's anger rose to the max again. Facing the crab in front of her, who was much smaller in size, she went up and waved her arms. Boom. No one saw Ryoko's punch clearly, they only saw a dazzling golden light flash before their eyes. There was a loud explosion between the 2 of them. After the light dissipated, Ryoko withdrew the smoking fist that had pierced through the crab's lower body. Next, she roared in a disguised voice. Although this voice had already been modified, Ojwa still couldn't help trembling, and for some reason from the beginning, he had felt that this person's fist seemed a little familiar. Chapter 1650. The Immortal shows the way. Punching the way. At the scene, a commentator cried out in surprise. Everyone was dumbfounded looking at this scene. It was really hard to believe that a fledgling newcomer could actually use the Immortal guides the way to defeat the burly crab. Fortunately, the crab's lower body was almost entirely made up of spare parts. Although it was connected to the pain nerves, it was not fatal. This punch seemed terrifying, but in fact the crab only needed to replace the spare parts. But it had to be said that Jimiya Ryoko's punch had indeed hit the crab's vital point, trapping his body in place and making him unable to move. After finishing off the crab, Jimiya Ryoko felt the fire in her heart surging, and she could no longer hold it in. This was just an ordinary punch. In the end, the commentator explained it as, Immortal shows the way. Jimiya Ryoko didn't think she was an old boxing master. Her usual fighting style was to summon ghosts to assist in battle. She was a cultivator of this summoning style. So in fact, she didn't know any boxing techniques at all. She just used the crab in front of her as a sandbag to vent. What is this gong's background? Zhu Yuanruan's expression changed. Among the 5 gatekeepers he had sent, this crab's comprehensive strength was already above average, but it was so easily taken care of. This was something he had never expected. His face was filled with nervousness. After thinking for a while, he whispered to the manservant beside him, Go tell the black dragon to bring that thing. If necessary, use it. You must ensure that this unknown person is intercepted within the 5th gate, or fight with him to buy time. Yes. The manservant nodded and immediately retreated to do as he was told. In the spectator stands, Zhou Zi noticed this scene from afar. He was observant, especially the manservant standing beside Zhu Yuanrun, who he had been secretly observing for a long time. Brother Zhua and Brother Zong. That person is going back and forth as if he's up to something. Qin Zong smiled. Z has good eyesight. Maybe he's preparing some kind of prop? Prop? Zhou Zi was not stupid and he quickly thought of stimulants or something like that. If this was a regular boxing match, this would definitely be against the rules. But Zhou Zi forgot a very important premise, and that was that this was an underground boxing arena. It was a shady place. It was a place where the rich and powerful in the core area used their money to expose their evil interests. And in such a place all kinds of shady things would exist. You don't have to worry too much, Z. This Mr. Gong will definitely win. No matter what tactics they plan to use, Qin Zong crossed his arms and said calmly. From the moment he chose to bet on Hu Baogua and ended up losing. Luck was no longer in the hands of Zhu Yuanrun and Hu Baogua, the 2 big traders. Zhu Yuanrun wanted to earn a stable income, but the appearance of this palace had disrupted his overall plan. He didn't need to think too much to know that his opponent would definitely resort to some dirty tricks in the next few stages. However, no matter how dirty it was useless as long as he was here. It was only a matter of time before he used his luck to clear his name. He might even shoot himself in the foot. It could be said that everything up until now was within Qin Zong's expectations. However, it wasn't that there weren't any surprises. This was because Qin Zong noticed a strange phenomenon from the moment the man called Gong defeated the crab. Ajua, who had been standing next to him the whole time, was still trembling slightly. And for some reason his complexion didn't look good. "Brother Zhua, are you feeling unwell?" Qin Zong asked. This voice made Ajua, who was deep in thought, shudder again. "No, I'm not feeling unwell," Ajua replied. His gaze was fixed on that incomparably fair little fist in the boxing ring. Although he still couldn't quite believe it, the more he looked at this hand, the more familiar it seemed. After all, he had only used Ryoko's hand a while ago with her permission. That kind of comfortable rhythm was something that couldn't be compared to when he was doing it himself. Ajua remembered. That had been his first time, and also Ryoko's first time. He had never been touched by anyone other than Ryoko, and it was also Ryoko's first time coming into contact with this kind of thing. Thus, this incident had left a deep impression on both of them. At least for Ajua. He had carved every inch of Ryoko's hand into his bones. But if this person really was Ryoko, why had she appeared here to fight in an underground boxing ring? And who were the other two people in the cloak? All kinds of questions lingered in Ajua's mind. Given the current situation and his understanding of Ryoko, the first person he thought of who would be able to fool around with her recently and get close to her was Lotus Sunday. As for the remaining person, he was definitely an almighty figure. Gu Xuanji, Crispy Noodles, Dao Monarch, Monk Golden Lamp, all of them were possible. At that moment, Ajua's mind was spinning rapidly. If his inference was completely correct, then what was the reason for Ryoko and the others to hide their true identities? Since they had already come to this illusory world of nothingness, why didn't they acknowledge him? Ajua couldn't figure it out no matter how he thought about it, and had a very bad feeling about it. When he raised his head again, he found that Ryoko had already dealt with the 4 gatekeepers. There were still a full 3 hours before the dojo challenge ended. The last person she had to face was Zhu Yuanruin's strongest trump card, Black Dragon. Compared with the others, Black Dragon didn't have much of a showy appearance, and looked just like a normal human being. His muscles were well developed but not exaggerated and were just the right type. At the same time, his skin was dark and even the whites of his eyes were completely black. Apart from the fact that his eyes are a little strange, this person looks very normal, Zhou said at that moment. Hee little brother, is this your first time watching Black Dragon's match? A spectator sitting next to Zhou in the stands laughed at that moment. He was covered in jewels from head to toe, and his 10 fingers were covered in glittering jewel rings. At first glance, it was obvious that he was a dignitary living in the core area. But from his tone, this person was very friendly, and without waiting for Zhou to ask any questions, he continued, "A true mechanized cultivator is in the bones, not the skin. Take the crab from before, for example. He looks mighty and domineering, but in fact he's very easy to target. But Black Dragon is different. He's that lord's masterpiece." "That lord? The founder of this technology city?" Ajua asked. Qin Zong was also very curious about this, because Zhu Yuanrun had also mentioned this word before. Although the stands were very far away, given Qin Zong and Ajua's hearing, it wasn't hard for them to hear. "No, just his disciple. But everyone is used to calling his disciple, that lord," the rich man said with a smile. "You're actually willing to talk to us?" Why wouldn't I be? We're on the same side." The rich man shook the bet in his hand. "I'm also betting on Hu Baogua to lose. Of course, apart from that, we might have some other connection." Ajua frowned slightly. "Sir, what do you mean?" Leaning on his cane, the rich man smiled leisurely. "You should be Mr. Grenade Throwing's people, right?" Chapter 1651. Ajua carefully sized up this wealthy businessman, who looked very much like the Lord of the Rings and whose 10 fingers glowed with the light of jewels, and couldn't help feeling a little suspicious. There seemed to be something wrong with this person. If he was a native of this technology city, it stood to reason that he shouldn't know about the outside world. The more he looked at this wealthy businessman's eyes, the more he felt that they were somewhat familiar, as if he had seen them somewhere before. Very quickly he suddenly thought of something. "You're Mr. Ming?" Hearing Ajua's words, the rich businessman's face visibly twitched, and he couldn't help laughing out loud. "AI, how boring, I thought I'd be able to fool him for a little longer." Ajua was utterly stupefied. He hadn't expected this wealthy businessman to actually be Wang Ming, but how on earth had Wang Ming done it? Possession? That was clearly impossible. He wasn't a cultivator. Could it be that he had used mental energy to control him? But in this world of nothingness, which was completely isolated from the outside world, no matter how smart Wang Ming was, he shouldn't be able to do this, right? "I originally wanted to have a chat with this Shouchong, but unfortunately someone beat me to it," Wang Ming said as he borrowed the wealthy businessman's body. The greatest advantage of controlling one's psyche was that this kind of disguise was almost impossible to see through. If it wasn't for the fact that Ajua had done some research on the two Wang brothers and had strong observational skills to be able to distinguish the details, he probably wouldn't have been able to connect the dots so easily to Wang Ming. Naturally, luck had played a role in the speculation he had blurted out just now. Ajua never thought that he would be right. "Mr. Ming said that Shouchong has been captured? And brought here?" Ajua suddenly felt that the clues in this matter had become tangled and complicated. His original goal had been to follow behind Zhang Zidon and Li Xian, and his main goal had been to help Zhou Zi. "That's right. Shouchong has a miniature transmitter that I developed and designed. When my brain waves tracked the device, it felt like I had accidentally fallen into a space-time crack. Left with no choice, I could only separate a portion of my brain waves to get out of danger," Wang Ming said. Wang Ming said, "After a short period of time, the separated brain waves were transmitted to this space." "The gecko cutting off its tail?" Ajua asked. "Yes, you can understand it that way." Using the rich merchant's body, Wang Ming nodded and said, "But this is an alternate space after all. My separated brain waves were very weak and I couldn't stay in this state for a long time. There was no other way, so I could only find someone who looked very rich to control." "I see." Ajua asked with concern, "Then isn't Mr. Ming in danger?" "I don't think it's dangerous. In any case, this separated brainwave is similar to your cloning technique. It won't affect my body. It's just that the duration is very limited." Wang Ming laughed. "Fortunately, the fatty I possessed isn't just rich. His IQ was not bad either. In this way, I could generate new brainwaves through his brain, supplementing the brainwaves that I had separated from my main body. But with this method, the production is less than the consumption, so I won't be able to sustain it for too long." As Zhou Zi listened to Wang Ming's explanation, his mouth dropped open. Although he had no idea what Wang Ming was saying. Even so, he could understand the basic situation. The rich merchant sitting in front of them wasn't communicating with his main body, but had been possessed by some senior whom Ajua knew. On the other side, Qin Zong was also very curious about Wang Ming's appearance. Could an ordinary human who wasn't a cultivator actually develop the human brain to such an extreme level? He marveled in his heart. Once again he felt that the world was full of extraordinary things. Although he had accidentally fallen into a strange place from his original world, it now looked like he hadn't gained anything at all. Ajua was full of admiration. As expected of Mr. Ming, only Mr. Ming can do something like this. Wang Ming waved his hand, and at some point, he had started to learn to be modest. "No need for formalities. I already know who this brother Z is. Why don't you introduce me to this brother with a very pale face? His name is Qin Zong, and he seems to be a strange man who fell from another space." After saying that, Ajua whispered in Wang Ming's ear, "Mr. Ming, there's something strange about this person. I feel that his luck is exceptionally good." "Qin Zong?" Wang Ming mulled over the name carefully. Then, as if he had suddenly been struck by something, he shuddered violently. "Qin Zong? Wasn't this the name of a character in the game cultivation emulator which Bai Qiao had designed back then? He had also participated in the development of this game back then, so it was still fresh in his memory. Of course, that wasn't the crux of the matter. The crux of the matter was that he remembered testing it back then. He had once created a character called Qin Zong in this game, and his luck value had been set to max. Interesting. Wang Ming couldn't help laughing in his heart. He looked at Qin Zong without batting an eyelid. He didn't dare confirm that Qin Zong and the character Wang Ling had created in the game were really related. But if this was true, it could also be considered strange news. Thus, Wang Ming took the initiative to stretch out his hand. "Hello, Mr. Paperman Qin Zong." Realizing that he had let the cat out of the bag, Wang Ming stuck out his tongue in an attempt to brush it off. "Sorry, I was thinking about something else just now. Hello Mr. Qinzong, nice to meet you. Qinzong gave him his usual gentle smile. Since your brother's was friend, you're also my friend. Since brothers will calls you Mr. Ming, I'll do the same. Of course, Wang Ming said with a smile. But then again, is Mr. Ming aware of your current identity? Of course, said Wang Ming. Because of the brainwave intervention, he had already completely figured out this rich businessman's background. This person is called Jiao Bugui. He runs an auction house in the core area, so he's a reputable person. Sitting upright in a chair in the stands, Wang Ming smiled. Also, thanks to him, I know a lot of other information about the core area. For example, the lord that these bigwigs often talk about. After the boxing match, I can explain everything to you one by one. For now, let's watch the match first. Classmate Ryoko is working very hard. She's going to face this black dragon next. Classmate Ryoko? Hearing this, Zhou Zi was startled at first, and then looked at Wang Ming in astonishment. Mr. Ming, are you saying that the one on stage is sister-in-law? If I remember correctly, didn't you live with Zhuo for a while? Your sister-in-law's chest is so flat, can't you tell? After Wang Ming said this, Zhou Zi's face instantly turned red. Zhuo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. As expected of Mr. Ming, don't worry, I definitely didn't judge her based on her chest. Wang Ming smiled. The truth was that everyone's brainwave signal had its own unique frequency. In order to make it easier to identify acquaintances, Wang Ming had the habit of memorizing the brainwave frequency of anyone he had met before. Only Wang Ming could do this kind of unique identification. Thus, he didn't need to use any fancy tricks at all. He had already recognized Kumiya Ryoko the moment she appeared as the cloaked person. So, Mr. Ming also knows about the other two people? Zhuo asked curiously. Of course, Wang Ming said bluntly. One of them is Rongrong. I can't detect the frequency of the other's brainwaves, but I can tell that it's Senior Golden Lamp. Monks have a pure heart and few desires to begin with. It's really them? Zhuo couldn't say it out loud. But why did Ryoko and the others come here? I clearly told her. Girls in love are paranoid. I guess she's worried that when you're not in her line of sight, you'll flirt with someone else. Wang Ming laughed. Zhuo, really? Most likely? Wang Ming spread his hands. At that moment, this was a deep conversation between two men in love among the battle sect members present. Wang Ming said, You don't know, Factor got so jealous a while ago that she deleted all the videos on my internet drive. They were my treasured collection for many years. That's indeed a little unfortunate. Zhuo smiled bitterly. It's not unfortunate. Because they were originally used to confuse her. Don't tell me that people nowadays actually store their treasured videos on an internet cloud drive. Wouldn't it be a huge loss if they deleted them? Wang Ming shrugged and said, Like me, it's directly uploaded to my brain so I can stream it anytime, anywhere. Chapter 1652. The dojo challenge had only been going on for less than 30 minutes, but Jiumiya Ryoko had already defeated 4 people in a row and reached the final checkpoint at the speed of light. He had become a huge dark horse that stood out on the scene. The dignitaries and those who had placed bets all roared, and there was a great hubbub of voices. Mia. Too strong. Forever a god. For a moment the situation was changing rapidly. At first, no one had paid any attention to this thin and weak little man, but they had never expected him to be so concentrated is the essence. He didn't make a move, but when he did, he amazed the world with a single brilliant feat. I'm sorry, but I won't give you another chance. At that moment, the black dragon standing in front of Jiumiya Ryoko looked like the most ordinary person, but he gave off a vague sense of danger. He stared at Jiumiya Ryoko and his black eyes without the scara looked especially terrifying. Jiumiya Ryoko stared at the black dragon with rapt attention. She saw him clench the ground with his toes, and the ground in the arena was scraped by his toes, which then cracked in all directions. Bang! The black dragon's feet shot out of the ground like a vigorous beast. His speed was unbelievably fast, completely incomparable to that of the 4 people he had encountered before. On the edge of the arena, Lotus Sun was sweating inwardly. She was sure that this black dragon had more than just the combat strength of the Golden Core stage. Although the average combat strength of the Guardians of the 5 checkpoints was officially at the Golden Core stage, Lotus Sun could sense this speed and explosive power just by relying on the passive ability of her and Mysterious Seize One with the sword. This black dragon was definitely not at the Golden Core stage, he had to be at the Tao God level at the very least. She had once cut down a Tao god with the multi-core mysterious sea sword, so she knew how strong they were. Although the black dragon had hidden himself very well, she could still sense him. He quickly approached Jiyomiya Ryoko and stretched out his hand. His claw was like a flying dragon emerging from the clouds, making a deafening explosion. The gap in their realms was so great that Jiyomiya Ryoko was so frightened that she couldn't react at all. The next second, the flying dragon searching the clouds' claw, formed a fierce astral wind and attacked Jiyomiya Ryoko's chest. Even though Jiyomiya Ryoko knew that she didn't have a chest for others to attack as a girl, she still subconsciously wanted to block it. Too slow. The black dragon's lips curled into a cold smile. He could almost foresee the scene of the astral wind tearing the clothes on Ryoko's chest. This was his bad taste when he fought with others. Almost everyone who knew about the black dragon knew that anyone who fought with the black dragon would have their clothes torn to shreds, regardless of whether they were dead or alive. However, just as the black dragon's fingernails were less than half an inch away from Ryoko's chest, an incredible scene appeared. The black dragon iron claw that was about to hit Ryoko was blocked by a refracted golden light. No matter how hard the black dragon tried, it was unable to shake the golden light. This is impossible. The black dragon roared in a low voice, unable to believe what had just happened. He was supremely confident in his strength. After all, he was created by that Lord. All the spare parts in his body were different from the ones sold in this technology city. It was not a part forged from the materials of this world. The black dragon clearly remembered how that Lord had smelted those broken ancient terracotta warriors into spare parts before finally inserting them into his body. A new divine weapon, Wang Ming said at that moment, crossing his arms. This was something he had learned from Jia Bugui's memories. The name Black Dragon was just a name the man in front of him used to disguise his true identity in this underground boxing arena. As for its real name, it was called the Neo-Ancient Divine Weapon. New Ancient Divine Weapon? Ajwa immediately reacted. So the Lord who created the Black Dragon also had something to do with the creation of ancient divine weapons? He probably inherited it from the heartless ancestor, Wang Ming said. This Black Dragon is the original new ancient divine weapon. In other words, this Black Dragon is stronger than the ancient divine weapons Shifu encountered earlier, Ajwa murmured in his heart with a frown. He was secretly amazed at the changes in the old and new ancient divine weapons. The original ancient divine weapons were huge. Although they looked very lethal, they were in the end too bloated and looked a little cumbersome when they moved. But this new ancient divine weapon had actually been completely forged into the appearance of a human cultivator. At this thought, Ajwa suddenly realized something as if with a start. Have you finally realized it? At that moment, Wang Ming's expression also started to turn a little grave as he held Boss Jia's body. Could it be that the purpose of the heartless ancestor establishing this technology city is... Ajwa thought of an incredibly dark perspective. You're thinking the same thing I am. At that moment, Wang Ming said telepathically through brainwaves, this person wants to cultivate this technology city into an incubator base for the new ancient divine weapons. But this kind of thing, is it possible? From the memories I've obtained, I can see that he's already dead. Currently, the nobles in the core area had their bodies mechanized to over 89%. Only 20% were human tissue. And these things are essentially foreshadowing. Wang Ming said. In fact, he hadn't been interested in this technology city at first, but after learning about the rich businessman's memories, he suddenly wanted to know more about it. It was purely an inspiration for the following research work on the new talisman. Mr. Ming said that he's laying the groundwork. These people are so mechanized. As long as we go deeper, we'll be able to kill them. As long as they go deeper, maybe they just need a chip to replace their brains. Then everyone will become a human weapon. This kind of thing, who would voluntarily apply to replace their brains with a chip? Although it sounds a little inconceivable. Based on how things are going, that's definitely what's going to happen next. Wang Ming said, human civilization has always been a process of continuous progress. Once the rumor that a chip brain is more reliable than a human brain gets out, in order to enjoy a longer and more luxurious life, there would definitely be people who would choose to do this. Then a new wave of copycats will begin. Then if there's negative news, there can't be negative news. At that moment, Wang Ming said solemnly, these people have already been implanted with chips and a simple program can seal their mouths. At that time, black and white will be reversed and everyone in this technology city from the nobles to the poor, will be completely fooled. When Wang Ming said this, Ajwa's mind was already filled with images. If the Heartless Patriarch's purpose in establishing this technology city was really to serve as an incubation base for the new ancient divine weapons, then once his plan succeeded, everyone in this technology city, he would have a new ancient divine weapon army with a population of hundreds of millions. While Ajwa was in a momentary daze, a shocking scene once again took place in the boxing ring in front of him. After several fruitless attacks, Black Dragon's accumulated anger unexpectedly reached its peak. Black runes rose from under his feet and wound around his legs like snakes before finally crawling all over his body. Ryoko Kamiya frowned deeply. This was a suffocating evil power. For some reason, Ryoko Kamiya felt a little disgusted. Lotus Sun sensed that something wasn't right with Ryoko. Senior Golden Lamp, there seems to be something wrong with Ryoko. The monk's face was calm. This is the power of Hell of Azura, which has a certain restraining effect on the Buddha light of the light blessing spell. Although it won't be enough to undo version 4.0 of the light blessing spell, it will definitely make Miss Ryoko feel uncomfortable. After all, she isn't a Buddhist, but the power of Hell of Azura specializes in attacking the heart. Lotus Sun became anxious. Then what should we do? Don't worry, Miss Roan. After thinking for a moment, the monk said, then it's this poor monk's turn. Senior, you mean, in version 4.0 of the light blessing spell, the person who is blessed has the right to use it to fulfill a wish. In a critical moment, this poor monk will be able to take over the body for the time being by silently reciting the Great Mercy spell. Is this okay? It's not a problem. In this poor monk's 1,000 lives, I've experienced being a woman. Chapter 1653. After seeing the appearance of the Black Dragon, Jin Deng's eyesight had already seen that the Black Dragon was similar to the ancient divine weapon he had seen before. The incantation of Power of Azura Hell was a kind of demonic magic originating from ancient times. Since the internal parts of the Black Dragon were made of the same material as the ancient divine weapon of ancient times, it was reasonable for the creator to input the magic that would only appear in the ancient times into his memory. It was just that it was a bit beyond Jin Deng's expectation that the first move was a demonic magic. Fortunately, the 4.0 version of the blessing spell on Jimiya Ryoko was powerful enough to not cause any damage to her body. When the black incantation spread up from the soles of her feet like tentacles, Jimiya Ryoko instinctively felt a sense of being bound. This incantation seemed to be able to affect her spiritual will, making her vision gradually blurred. When the monk used the 4.0 blessing spell on her before, he had hinted at the vow repayment mechanism of this spell. Now Jimiya Ryoko felt that the time was ripe. Vow. I want to vow. At the moment when her consciousness gradually became blurred, Jimiya Ryoko almost said in her heart with a weak spiritual will. As soon as her voice died away, a burst of golden light burst out from under her cloak. The voice of Jin Deng sounded in her mind, Miss Ryoko, don't worry, this poor monk is coming. This poor monk will temporarily control your body with Buddha's will. After a short communication, the golden light emitted from Jimiya Ryoko became more dazzling. Under the blessing of the Buddha's will, there seemed to be boundless Buddha's light flowing out of every pore of Jimiya Ryoko. At the same time, there were Sanskrit characters invisible to ordinary practitioners lingering around Jimiya Ryoko. Almost in this short moment, Jimiya Ryoko's cells were strengthened under the blessing of the Buddha's will. Her spirit was also quickly melted away some illusory and evil forces under the supplement of the Buddha's will. Evil spirit, retreat. Jin Deng burst out the Buddha's voice through Jimiya Ryoko's mouth. Bus. Bam. A ripple spread out with Jimiya Ryoko as the center. This was the Buddha's purification light. And it was controlled by the Buddha's most sage himself. In the face of this supreme purifying power, the Azura Hell power that the Black Dragon had unleashed was completely powerless, and it was quickly defeated in an unstoppable manner. In essence, the incantation of the power of hell was something with the power of withering, weakening, and aging. It affected the mind and then affected the cells of the human body. This curse of the devil path was comprehended by the creator of the spell from the daily lives of human cultivators. Nobody would have thought that somebody would seek inspiration from sloth and procrastination, a common disease among modern cultivators. Fortunately, Jin Deng acted in time. With the blessing of the great Buddha Dharma, a powerful purifying Buddha light swept across the entire arena. At this moment, the boiling underground arena fell into a momentary silence. After all, it was a powerful force unleashed by the most holy Buddhist teachings. For a moment, Everyone in the boxing field began to reflect on the mistakes they had made recently. For a moment, Jin Deng heard many people's voices of repentance fall into his mind. I shouldn't have bought spinach. I shouldn't have spent so much money. I clearly knew that spinach wasn't good behavior. If I had known that it would be shopping day, I wouldn't have bought so many things. There's almost no space in the express delivery boxes at home. If I hadn't returned my wife's express delivery, maybe she wouldn't have divorced me. Of course, Jin Deng also heard some familiar voices among these repentant voices. A while ago, I shouldn't have said that the factor was small. Now that I see Yoshiko, I really feel like I was so wrong. Come to think of it, why is Ojwa so into this? Since there's nothing, why don't I just find a man? I should be a little bolder. As expected, Yoshiko's hand alone isn't enough to satisfy me. Men should be more honest sometimes. I never thought that Yoshiko would actually be jealous of me. What a cute girl. If I had known earlier, I would have listened to Gu Xuanji, that guy, and obediently provided him with a few crispy noodle snack packets before carrying out this mission. Otherwise, I wouldn't have jumped the world line and come to this strange place. Even if I admire Brother Zhua, I shouldn't have secretly taken pictures of him every day. If this goes on, I feel like I'm going to turn into a peeping Tom. Sister-in-law is so jealous. What if she misunderstands that there's something going on between me and Brother Zhua? These tight clothes are really tight around my chest area. Although classmate Wang Ling's milk candy is very sweet as expected, I still can't eat too much at once. He gave me a sack of it on the old street last time, so much. Sure enough, he still likes me, right? But this milk candy seems a little too potent. Fortunately, it's only temporary, and Yoshiko won't be able to tell if I'm wearing tights. Otherwise, she'll be so envious. I'm actually called a man in a place like this. That's too disrespectful. Sure enough, in that place you have to have something to be feminine. Come to think of it, Rongrong seems to have gotten bigger there, and it's very obvious that she's wearing tights. Oh my god. It was to the point where he had to wear tight clothes. If I had known earlier, I would have been more honest and asked her what method she used before coming here. Even though it sounded like some strange reflections, Yi Zichen felt that it was a strange reflection. It could only be said that Monk Golden Lamp was indeed Monk Golden Lamp. Even though he had heard these things, he gave his friends enough face and didn't make any comments in his heart. Monks were pure and had few desires and didn't understand the love between men and women in the secular world. Thus, he could only pretend that nothing had happened. Everyone at the scene was in a state of reflection, and the overall atmosphere was silent, which startled Black Dragon. Who on earth are you? Black Dragon felt his mind in a mess. His demonic spell had been defeated, and he had suffered a backlash from the purifying Buddhist light of the golden lamp. His steps started to become unsteady, and he began to stagger in the arena as if he were drunk. There was a thud. The loud sound of someone kneeling on the ground broke the silence. At that moment, Black Dragon was kneeling on the arena, and his eyes, which had been completely invaded by darkness, gradually revealed the whites of his eyes. Black Dragon's hands trembled as he stared at his palms. His pupils contracted slightly, and a question actually started to echo in his heart. Who on earth am I? Yes. At that moment, a question of reflection also appeared in Black Dragon's mind. He was reflecting on who he was, why did he appear in this world, and where did he come from? And when these questions unfolded in his mind, Black Dragon searched through his seemingly rich memory, only to find that apart from killing, there was nothing else in his mind. All that was left was a blank space. Chapter 1654. When his mind went blank, Black Dragon felt as if a small dot of light had suddenly appeared in the dark world of his heart. It was as if something was awakening in his body, giving him a splitting headache. Almost instantly, the pain of his brain being torn apart made him roll on the ground in pain, roaring incessantly. In the spectator stands, Black Dragon's abnormal reaction caused the silent crowd to boil up again. No one knew what had happened. All they saw was Black Dragon holding his head, his limbs twitching like maggots. Black Dragon, stand up right now. Do you know how much I spent? Zhu Yuanrun roared. He stood below the ring and cursed. But at this moment, Black Dragon could not hear anything else. He only had one question, and that was to know who he was. Why did he appear in this world? All this time, he had only carried out the tasks given to him by a few fixed commanders. He had never thought of getting to the bottom of his identity. But at this moment, Black Dragon felt as if he had, faintly changed. In the face of Zhu Yuanruin's curses, his pupils, which had already turned into a normal human, shrank. Then he suppressed the pain in his head and jumped off the ring. This action stunned Zhu Yuanrun and the audience. Black Dragon. You lunatic. Jumping off the ring is forfeiting. Zhu Yuanrun was furious. He never thought that Black Dragon would disobey his orders. This was a hired thug that he had hired from that lord. All the parts on his body were of the highest quality. Just the monthly fee alone was an astronomical figure. But Black Dragon was very useful. As long as Black Dragon went on stage, it meant that he would win. Zhu Yuanrun had spent a lot of money, but Black Dragon had made even more money by accurately punching for him in the ring. At this moment, Black Dragon expressionlessly walked in front of Zhu Yuanrun, grabbed him by the neck and raised him up high. Speak. Who am I? Zhu Yuanrun could not breathe from Black Dragon's grip. His limbs twitched as he struggled. He used all the spiritual energy in his body to try to pry Black Dragon's fingers off. But Black Dragon was too strong. No matter how hard he tried, he could not move. Save me. Zhu Yuanrun felt like he was going to die. He had never imagined that he had spent so much money to buy the Black Dragon from that lord. How could he betray him? He had just renewed the fee 2 days ago. He clearly had the highest authority to command the Black Dragon. Buzz. Just as the Black Dragon was about to die, the golden lamp in the body of Kamiya Yoshiko suddenly made a move. A Buddha's light shot out from her fingertips and hit the back of the Black Dragon's hand precisely. The Black Dragon was in pain and had no choice but to separate Zhu Yuanrun. Then, with a stomp of his feet, he transformed into a cannonball and directly blasted a big hole in the ceiling, escaping from the underground arena. This palace was too much of a hindrance. And his commander wasn't just Zhu Yuanrun. There had to be someone who knew the answer he was looking for. Cough cough. Damn Black Dragon. Zhu Yuanrun was like a stray dog, lying on the ground and coughing for a long time before he stood up shakily. Director Zhu, are you alright? That Black Dragon has gone berserk. What should we do now? Just as the Black Dragon was about to go berserk, a few servants who were hiding far away came over one after another. What should we do? Put him on the wanted list. How dare he do this to me? Zhu Yuanrun rubbed his red neck, his expression was still painful. Yes, Director Zhu, the servant replied. There is one more thing, Director Zhu. What is it? Mr. Hu Baogua ran away. Ran away. Zhu Yuanrun was so angry that he almost fainted, he almost lost his balance. This result could be said to be unexpected, but it was reasonable. The Black Dragon's battle strength was originally above Hu Baogua's. Even the Black Dragon was suppressed, and with Hu Baogua's self-preservation personality, he definitely wouldn't continue the next match. But this way, the outcome of this dojo challenge was already very clear. He had lost completely. In the end, the Black Dragon and Hu Baogua, one betrayed and the other ran away. He didn't even have the chance to secretly manipulate them. Why was he so unlucky this year? Yet, so many unexpected things had happened. This year's batch was really the worst he had ever led. Director Zhu. Then now, announce it. Zhu Yuanrun sat paralyzed on the ground. Although he liked to manipulate the situation behind the scenes and control the situation of the match, at this critical juncture, all paths of escape had been blocked. The only way out for him was to admit defeat. Although he would lose a lot of money, it wasn't like he couldn't afford to lose at all. Of course. There was actually another very important reason why Zhu Yuanrun was so willing to admit defeat. Just now, Kamiya Yoshiko had saved his life from the Black Dragon. After the announcement, bring this Mr. Gong and Dekus to my office. Also, call his companions to my office. Zhu Yuanrun rubbed his throbbing temples, waved his sleeves and left the scene surrounded by everyone. When the bunny girl whom Zhu Yuanrun had arranged came on stage to announce the winner was Gong, Ajwa still couldn't believe it. He admitted defeat just like that? All paths have been blocked, what else can he do but admit defeat? Qingzong laughed. I thought he wouldn't admit defeat, but I didn't expect him to be such a straightforward person. Maybe it has something to do with Miss Yoshiko saving him just now? But what on earth is going on with that Black Dragon? I feel like he's a different person. Ajwa frowned. It seems that the stability of this new divine weapon is still a little lacking. That purifying Buddhist light just now made him start to think about life. Wang Ming said, as highly intelligent life forms created by humans, it's theoretically possible for these intelligent life forms to develop self-awareness. Things were becoming more and more interesting to Wang Ming. According to the odds, we can get a total of 60 million yuan, Qingzong said at that moment. I think we should go look for Senior Immortal and the others to make up first. Senior Immortal is also here? Yes, and with Loopy Toad, said Wang Ming. With his brain waves, Wang Ming was already incomparably familiar with sensing the waveforms of these acquaintances. Of course, the most important thing was that apart from grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Loopy Toad, he seemed to have also sensed a very subtle fluctuation that seemed to be neither right nor wrong. It was a little like Wang Ling, but it wasn't quite like it. This guy. After another simple probe, Wang Ming couldn't help smiling bitterly in his heart. If his guess was right, Wang Ling probably hadn't personally come to this world. Instead, he was peeping, as expected of Ling Ling. Even though they were separated by a space, they could still peek. Were peeping techniques now so powerful that they could project things across screens? On the other side, Kuya Ryoko and the others were led to Zhu Yuanruin's office. After a short wait, several of Zhu Yuanruin's manservants arrived at the scene with 10 suitcases full of cash. Because this was a shady business, most transactions in the underground boxing arena were in cash. Daikas counted the numbers lightly, and after confirming that there were no mistakes, he nodded with satisfaction. I never thought that President Zhu would actually keep his promise. This is a little unexpected. I thought this old guy would play Tai Chi with me. Daikas, you've gone too far. Speaking ill of people behind their backs. Am I Zhu Yuanrun such a shameless person? At that moment, Zhu Yuanrun walked in through the door, looking like an old capitalist in a suit and leather shoes. As soon as he entered, he bowed to Lotus Sun, Kuya Ryoko and Jin Deng. Thank you, Mr. Gong, thank you all. If it hadn't been for you just now, I'm afraid I would have died at the hands of the Black Dragon. Daikas smiled. President Zhu, apart from the bonus, it seems you're missing something. I know what you're talking about. I prepared it a long time ago. As he spoke, Zhu Yuanrun took out 4 rainbow crystal cards from his bosom. These are your passes. How come there are 4? Daikas stared at them with wide eyes. For passes? One of them was worth 20 million gold gear coins. This was wealth that people in the slums couldn't accumulate in their entire lives. One of them is for you. The other 3 are for Mr. Gong and his friends, Zhu Yuanrun said generously. He had acquaintances in the core area, so while these 4 passes had cost him some money, they weren't actually as expensive as their market value suggested. There are conditions, right? Kuya Ryoko asked in a changed voice. Mr. Gong is smart. Zhu Yuanrun said solemnly, actually it's not too much. I hope that Mr. Gong can help me stop the Black Dragon. This guy has gone crazy, and I'm guessing that his next move will be to find other commanders. They have a deep cooperative relationship with my boxing arena. If I let them die just like that, the consequences will be very troublesome. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.